Think and Grow Rich, Purdine Full Audiobook. Wealth is not an accident. Success is not luck. Every fortune, every achievement, every transformation begins in one place: the human mind. Think and Grow Rich isn't about money. It's about mastery, a mastery over thoughts, over focus, over action. The world doesn't pay you for what you want. It pays you for what you believe. You are the builder, the architect, and the gatekeeper of your destiny. In the next hour, you will learn the laws of achievement that have built empires, transformed failures into fortunes, and proven one eternal truth: that you are the cause, not the consequence, of your life. Chapter 1. Desire, the starting point of all achievement. Listen to me. Most people fail before they even start. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack opportunity. They fail because they confuse wishing with wanting. They confuse hoping with desiring. And that confusion costs them everything. You have a choice right now. You can treat this chapter like entertainment, something to listen to while you do dishes or drive to work. Or you can treat it like medicine, like something you need. The difference between those two choices determines whether your life changes or stays exactly as it is. This is about desire. Real desire, not the fake kind you talk about at dinner parties, not the watered-down, half-hearted wanting that dies the moment things get hard. We're talking about the kind of desire that burns so hot you can't think about anything else. That's where achievement starts. That's the only starting point that matters. The difference. Want versus desire. Here's what most people don't understand. Wanting something and desiring something are not the same thing. Wanting is passive. You want a better job. You want more money. You want to be healthy. Fine, great, so does everyone else. And look around. Most people don't have those things, because wanting is the participation trophy of ambition. It feels good to say you want something. It requires nothing. No risk, no sacrifice, no real commitment. Desire is different. Desire is active. Desire is obsessive. Desire is the force that makes you wake up at 4 a.m. without an alarm. It's what makes you skip the happy hour your friends invited you to, because you know that time is the difference between ordinary and exceptional. Desire is what separates the people who talk about their dreams from the people who actually live them. You have a choice. You can want something casually, or you can desire it with every fiber of your being. There is no middle ground. There is no kind of wanting it. There is no wanting it eventually. Either you desire it or you don't. Napoleon Hill wrote about this over a century ago. He called it definiteness of purpose, not vague desire. Not hope, definiteness, clarity, burning, unquestionable, unwavering purpose. He studied the wealthiest and most successful people of his era. And here's what he found. Every single one of them had one thing in common. They didn't just want success. They could see it. They could feel it. They could taste it before it existed. They obsessed over it. That's not motivation. That's possession. And that's the difference between someone who achieves and someone who dreams. The obsession requirement. Let me be direct. If you're not obsessed, you're not serious. If you're not obsessing over your goal, your vision, your purpose, then you haven't found something worth having yet. Obsession sounds extreme. It sounds unhealthy. People will tell you to maintain balance. They'll tell you not to be too focused. You know what those people have in common? They're ordinary. They're comfortable. They're exactly where they are because they never obsessed over being anywhere else. Think about Thomas Edison. Not for his genius, because genius is rare and most of us don't have it. Think about his obsession. Edison didn't just want to invent the light bulb. He tested over 1,000 different materials. Over 1,000. Do you understand what that requires? That requires an obsession so powerful that failure isn't even part of your vocabulary. That requires seeing thousands of failures and calling them steps toward success. Most people would have quit at failure number 50. They would have called themselves unlucky. Destiny didn't favor them. But Edison? He didn't see 1,000 failures. He saw 1,000 discoveries of what doesn't work. Because his desire was so clear, so focused, so obsessive, that setbacks were just data points on the way to success. That's the difference between weakness and power in your purpose. A weak desire dies with the first no. A burning desire doesn't even hear the no. It's too focused on the outcome. You have a choice. You can pursue something casually, or you can pursue it with obsessive clarity. Most people choose casual. That's why most people don't achieve anything exceptional. It's not a mystery. It's not unfair. It's simply cause and effect. The feeling requirement. Here's what separates the achievers from the pretenders. The achievers don't just know what they want. They feel it. This isn't mystical. This isn't positive thinking nonsense. This is neuroscience. When you engage your emotions, when you connect desire to feeling, you activate different parts of your brain. You stop living in the intellectual realm where everything is abstract and theoretical. You move into the visceral realm where things become real. You must see your desired outcome in your mind so clearly that you can almost touch it. You must feel the emotions as if you've already achieved it. Excitement, relief, gratitude, pride. Those feelings are not the reward for achieving your goal. Those feelings are the fuel that gets you there. Think about what happens when you desire something with genuine intensity. Your body changes. Your attention changes. Your priorities align. People can sense it. Opportunities emerge. Doors open. Not because the universe is responding to your thoughts, because your intensity attracts the people, resources, and situations that matter. That's not magic. That's physics. Energy is contagious. Obsession is magnetic, turning desire into definiteness. So how do you transform a vague want into a burning desire? How do you go from "I'd like to be successful" to "I am obsessed with this specific outcome"? First, clarity. You must define what you want with absolute precision. Not "I want to be rich," not "I want to be happy." Specific, measurable. Clear enough that you could explain it to someone else in 30 seconds and they would understand exactly what you mean. Second, visualization. Every single day, see yourself already having achieved it. Not once, every day. Make it so real in your mind that your body doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. Third, elimination. Cut everything that doesn't serve this desire. Your time is finite. Your energy is finite. Every hour you spend on something that doesn't move you toward your obsession is an hour stolen from your achievement. Fourth, daily action. Not someday. Not when you feel motivated. Every single day, take concrete steps toward your desire. Make the desire real through action. You have a choice. You can treat your goals like nice ideas, or you can treat them like obsessions. One requires nothing. The other requires everything. And that's exactly why only one of them produces results, the connecting truth. Here's the truth you need to understand. Desire is not selfish. Desire is not indulgent. Desire is the fuel that transforms ordinary human beings into people of impact and achievement. Every great achievement in history began with someone's burning desire. The desire wasn't the problem. The desire was the beginning. It's the people who didn't have strong enough desire, who gave up too early, who accepted mediocrity, who chose comfort over obsession. Those are the people who failed. It's not about being talented. It's about obsession. It's not about being lucky. It's about desire so intense that luck becomes irrelevant. It's not about the cards you were dealt. It's about the intensity you bring to playing those cards. That's the key. That's always the key. You've now understood the first and most foundational truth of achievement. Everything begins with burning desire. You've seen what separates real desire from fake want. You've learned that obsession isn't a flaw, it's the requirement. Now you're ready for the next step. Because desire alone isn't enough. You must know what to do with it. You must understand the architecture of how desire transforms into results. That's where discipline enters. Chapter 2. Faith. The engine of belief. The bridge from desire. You've now got burning desire. You know what you want. You can see it. You can feel it. You're obsessed with it. Good, that's the fuel. But fuel alone doesn't move anything. You can have the strongest desire in the world and still fail. You know why? Because desire without faith is like having gasoline with no engine. It just sits there. It evaporates. It becomes a regret. Faith is what transforms desire from a dream into a certainty. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about spirituality. I'm talking about something far more practical and far more powerful. Mental certainty. The absolute, unshakable conviction that what you desire doesn't just might happen, it will happen. That's faith. That's the engine that makes desire do work. Faith is not belief in others. Here's where most people get this wrong. They wait for someone else to believe in them first. They want their boss to believe in them before they take the promotion. They want their family to believe in them before they start the business. They want investors to believe in them before they take the risk. They want the market to believe in them before they ship the product. This is backwards. This is the thinking of someone who has handed their power to someone else. You don't need anyone else to believe in you first. Not your parents. Not your spouse. Not your friends. Not your mentors. Not your boss. Not the people whose approval you've been chasing your entire life. You need you to believe in you first. That's the key. That's where faith begins. Not in external validation. Not in permission from people who have already decided who you are and what you're capable of. Faith begins when you look in the mirror and you know, absolutely know, that what you're about to do will work. Most people have this backwards. They think belief follows achievement. You do something well, people believe in you, then you feel confident. That's not how it works. That's the amateur's formula. The professional's formula is the opposite. You believe in yourself before the evidence supports it. You believe before the results show up. You believe before anyone else believes. And then, and this is crucial, your belief creates the certainty that drives the actions that produce the results that prove your belief was justified. That's not delusion. That's faith. You have a choice. You can wait for the world to believe in you. You can spend your life seeking permission and validation from people who frankly don't care that much. Or you can cultivate an unwavering faith in yourself that exists independent of anyone else's opinion. One choice leads to a lifetime of waiting. The other leads to achievement, the repetition mechanism. Here's the mechanism. Here's how faith actually works at the neurological level. Repetition of thought creates belief, and belief creates results. This isn't positive thinking nonsense where you just think happy thoughts and magically everything works out. This is about the repeated firing of neural pathways until they become dominant structures in your brain. When you think something once, it's a thought. When you think it 10 times, it's becoming a pattern. When you think it 100 times, it's becoming a belief. When you think it 1,000 times, it becomes your reality, your operating system. Your brain doesn't distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. This is neuroscience, not mysticism. Your nervous system fires the same way whether you're actually doing something or visualizing it with intensity. This is why repetition is non-negotiable. You must repeat your certainty every single day, not once in the morning when you're fresh and motivated. Every day, multiple times. You must say it. You must see it. You must feel it so many times that it becomes the truth you operate from. Most people try this once and feel silly. They think a positive affirmation said one time and then forgotten is somehow going to rewire their nervous system. That's not how the brain works. That's not how faith works. Faith is built through relentless repetition until the belief becomes so embedded that doubt can't even get a foothold. You don't need their permission. You don't need their validation. You need your own unwavering certainty. Repeat it until it becomes the foundation of who you are. The athlete's visualization, faith in practice. Let me give you a concrete example of how faith works in the real world. Take any elite athlete, a gymnast preparing for the Olympics, a basketball player on the free throw line in the championship game, a swimmer about to race in front of 10,000 people. What do they do before the performance? They visualize. Not casually, not as a nice warm-up exercise. They visualize with such intensity and repetition that their body doesn't know the difference between training and competition. Champion gymnast doesn't just think about landing a perfect vault once before competition. She's visualized that exact vault. Every muscle contraction, every point of contact, every sensation, hundreds of times, maybe thousands. The movement has been rehearsed in her nervous system so completely that when her body performs it for real, it's not a new experience. It's a repetition. That's faith. That's the athlete saying, I have done this so many times in my mind that I know with absolute certainty that my body will execute it perfectly. And here's what's remarkable. It works. The research is clear. Athletes who combine physical training with intense visualization outperform athletes who only train physically. Why? Because the repetition in the mind creates the neural pathways. The faith in the body's ability to execute becomes so complete that when the moment arrives, there's no hesitation, no doubt, no question. The athlete believes because they have rehearsed the belief so completely that it has become their physical reality. This isn't unique to athletics. This is how faith works in every domain: business, art, sales, relationships, parenting. Every single area of human performance responds to the same principle. Repetition of thought creates belief, and belief creates results. Most people don't do this. They think once or twice about their goal and then they're done. They move on to the next distraction, and then they wonder why they don't achieve anything significant. You have a choice. You can visualize once and hope it sticks, or you can commit to daily intense repetition of the vision until it becomes your operating reality. One requires nothing, the other requires everything. And that's exactly why only one produces results. Faith is private until it isn't. There's something critical. Your faith doesn't need to be announced. It doesn't need to be defended. It doesn't need to be justified to skeptics. In fact, the moment you start defending your faith to someone who doesn't have it, you've already begun to lose it. You've shifted from certainty to persuasion. You've moved from knowing to explaining. Your faith is private. It lives inside you. It's the ground you stand on. It's the certainty you wake up with. It's the voice inside that says this will work, even when circumstances suggest otherwise. When you're doing something great, people will try to talk you out of it. They will present evidence. They will list reasons why it won't work. They will tell you stories about people who tried and failed. They will ask you questions designed to create doubt. Let them. Your faith doesn't depend on their belief. That's the entire point. Your certainty is independent of their skepticism. In fact, if everyone around you thinks what you're doing is possible, you're probably not doing anything remarkable. This is not about arrogance. It's about knowing something that others can't see yet. Because you're the only one who has put in the mental repetition. You're the only one who has visualized it. You're the only one who has lived it in your mind 1,000 times. You don't need their permission. You don't need their agreement. You need your faith. And your faith is built in the privacy of your own mind, through relentless, daily repetition. The mechanism under pressure. Here's where faith becomes most valuable: when pressure arrives, when the doubt creeps in, when the external world offers evidence that maybe you're wrong, when people close to you suggest you should give up, when the results aren't showing up as fast as you hoped. That's when most people lose their faith. But if you've built your Faith through repetition. If you've visualized your success so many times that it's embedded in your nervous system, the pressure doesn't shake you. It clarifies you. Because you've lived your success in your mind so completely that temporary setbacks are just noise. They're not contradictions to your faith. They're just weather. And you know how to weather them because you've already mentally experienced overcoming them. This is the power of faith. It's not about being positive. It's about being certain. It's not about ignoring reality. It's about knowing a deeper reality, the reality of your intention and your unwavering commitment to bringing it into physical form. The athlete who has visualized victory 1,000 times doesn't fall apart when the first attempt fails. The entrepreneur who has visualized their success 1,000 times doesn't quit when the first product launch doesn't hit projections. The artist who has seen their masterpiece completed in her mind 1,000 times doesn't abandon the work when critics dismiss it. Why? Because they're operating from faith, not hope. Hope is fragile. Faith is unbreakable. That's the difference. The connecting truth. Here's what you need to understand. Desire gets you started, but faith is what keeps you going. Desire is the obsession with the outcome. Faith is the certainty that the outcome is already yours. You're just waiting for physical reality to catch up to the reality you've already created in your mind. It's not about being delusional. It's about knowing that repetition of thought creates belief, and belief creates results. It's about understanding that your brain doesn't distinguish between a vividly imagined victory and a real one. It's about having the discipline to repeat your certainty every single day until doubt becomes physically impossible. That's the engine. That's what makes desire do work. You've now mastered two foundational forces: desire, the obsession with your outcome, and faith, the certainty that it will happen. You understand that belief must come from within before it can manifest without. You understand that repetition rewires your nervous system and creates your reality. But there's a problem. Desire and faith can coexist with laziness. A man can want something and believe in it and still do nothing. That's where the real power enters the equation. That's where discipline becomes the difference. Chapter 3. Autosuggestion. Reprogram the mind, the gap between desire and reality. You have desire. You have faith. You believe in your outcome. You visualize it. You repeat it. Your nervous system knows what success looks like. But here's the problem nobody talks about. Your subconscious mind is still running the old programming. Right now, inside your head, there's a voice. It's not your voice. It's the voice of every person who ever told you that you couldn't do this. It's the voice of every failure, every rejection, every time you fell short. It's the accumulated doubts of your entire life, compressed into an internal dialogue that runs on autopilot. That voice is sabotaging you. You can have all the desire in the world. You can have unshakable faith. You can visualize your success 1,000 times a day. But if your subconscious mind believes you're not worthy of that success, if it believes you're fundamentally incapable, fundamentally flawed, fundamentally not good enough, then your subconscious will manufacture reasons, excuses, and self-sabotage to match what it actually believes about you. This is autosuggestion. This is the power to reprogram your mind. And this is the chapter that changes everything. The subconscious obeys what you command. Your subconscious mind is not your enemy. It's not working against you out of malice. It's simply following orders. And most people never realize they've been giving it terrible orders their entire lives. Here's how it works. Your subconscious accepts repetition as truth. It doesn't evaluate. It doesn't judge. It doesn't ask for evidence. Repetition is proof. Say something enough times, think it enough times, believe it enough times, and your subconscious accepts it as fact, as reality, as the ground truth about who you are and what's possible for you. This is why your internal dialogue is so dangerous. Because it's constant. It's repetitive. It's running in the background whether you're paying attention or not. You wake up and the voice is there. You're driving to work and the voice is there. You're lying in bed at night and the voice is there. Over and over and over. I'm not good enough. I always mess things up. I don't deserve this. People like me don't succeed. I'm too old. I'm too young. I don't have the right background. I wasn't born with talent. Things never work out for me. Repetition, repetition, repetition. And your subconscious, faithfully following orders, organizes your perception and your behavior to match those beliefs. It finds evidence to support them. It creates patterns that prove them true. It literally reconstructs your reality to align with what you've been telling yourself. That's not mysticism. That's neuroscience. That's the reticular activating system. That's your brain filtering reality through the lens of what it believes to be true. You have a choice. You can let your subconscious run the old programming, the programming that was installed by other people, by circumstance, by accumulated failure. Or you can take control. You can issue new commands. You can reprogram the machine. That's autosuggestion. That's the conscious, deliberate repetition of new thoughts, new beliefs, new identities until your subconscious accepts them and reorganizes your entire being around them. Words. Shape identity. Identity drives action. Here's the mechanism that most people miss. Words don't just express your reality. Words create your reality. When you speak something, when you repeat it, you're not just making noise. You're programming your nervous system. You're training your brain to accept a new definition of who you are. You're literally reshaping the neural pathways that have been carved into your mind through years of repetition of old stories. This is why the words you choose matter more than almost anything else in your life. If you say, I'm trying to make it work, your subconscious hears, I might fail. I'm uncertain. This is difficult and I may not have what it takes. Your body language changes. Your energy changes. Your decisions change. People sense the uncertainty and respond accordingly. But if you say, I am building something remarkable, your subconscious hears, this is happening. I am capable. I am the architect of my reality. Your body language transforms. Your energy rises. Your decisions align with that identity. People sense the certainty and respond to it. Same situation. Different words. Different identity. Different results. This is the power of autosuggestion. You are not just trying to convince your conscious mind. You are reprogramming your subconscious identity. And identity drives action. Your identity is not fixed. It's not something you're born with. Identity is the story you tell yourself repeatedly until you believe it so completely that it becomes automatic. It becomes the lens through which you filter all decisions, all opportunities, all interactions. Change the story. Repeat it. Embed it. Watch your entire life reorganize around the new identity. Most people never do this. Most people accept the identity that was given to them by their family, by their circumstances, by the people who said, that's not who you are. And then they live that identity until it becomes such a deep groove that they can't even imagine another possibility. But you have a choice. You can keep the old identity, or you can write a new one. You can speak it into existence. You can repeat it until it becomes so real that your subconscious reorganizes everything to make it true. The autosuggestion formula. Words into belief. So how do you do this? How do you take control of autosuggestion and use it to reprogram your mind? First, you must write down your autosuggestion statement. Not think it, write it. The physical act of writing creates engagement that thinking alone doesn't produce. Second, your statement must be in present tense. Not I will become, not I am trying to become. Present tense, I am. I have. I do. Your subconscious doesn't understand future tense. It understands now. Third, your statement must be specific. Not I am successful, too vague. Your subconscious can't work with abstractions. I am earning 6 figures while building a business that matters. I am disciplined. I am worthy of this success. Specific, tangible, real. Fourth, emotion must be attached. Don't just recite your autosuggestion like a robot. Feel it, say it with conviction. Say it like you already know it's true. Attach the emotions of gratitude, pride, certainty. Your subconscious responds to emotion. Emotion is the glue that makes the programming stick. Fifth, repetition. Every single day. Multiple times. First thing in the morning when your mind is fresh. Last thing at night when your subconscious is preparing for sleep and is most receptive. During moments when you feel doubt creeping in. Repetition is non-negotiable. This is not positive thinking. This is not wishful thinking. This is a systematic reprogramming of your nervous system through deliberate repetition of commanding language until your subconscious accepts it as fact. You don't need their permission. You don't need to believe it yet. You just need to say it, repeat it. Your belief will follow. The Millionaire Case Study, From Poverty to Prosperity. Let me give you a concrete example of how autosuggestion rewires human beings from the inside out. There's a well-documented phenomenon among entrepreneurs who started with nothing and built million-dollar businesses. The researchers found something remarkable. The shift in their internal dialogue preceded the shift in their external circumstances. These weren't people who became wealthy and then started thinking like wealthy people. It was the opposite. They reprogrammed their internal dialogue first. They changed their autosuggestion. They changed their story. An impoverished entrepreneur would start saying, I am building a 7-figure business. I am worthy of abundance. I make intelligent financial decisions. Money flows to me naturally, every morning, every night, multiple times throughout the day. The first month, nothing changed materially. They still had the same bank account, same circumstances, same problems, but something shifted inside. Their internal voice changed. The old dialogue, I'm poor, I don't deserve money, people like me don't get rich, was being crowded out by new programming. By the 3rd month, their decisions began to shift. They started seeing opportunities they couldn't see before. Not because the opportunities weren't there, but because their reticular activating system was now filtering for opportunities instead of obstacles. They started taking risks they would have avoided before because their identity had shifted. They were no longer someone trying to make it. They were someone building a 7-figure business. Same person. Different identity. Different actions. Within a year, the external circumstances began to align with the internal identity. The business started gaining traction. The money started flowing. And here's the crucial part, they weren't surprised. They weren't shocked. They had already lived it 1,000 times in their mind through their daily autosuggestion. The external results were just catching up to the internal reality they had already created. This wasn't luck. This wasn't accident. This was systematic reprogramming of the subconscious mind through autosuggestion. And here's what's remarkable. These individuals reported that the moment their external circumstances began to change, it felt effortless, not because becoming successful is easy, but because they had already become successful internally. The external success was just the manifestation of what they had already decided about themselves. This is the power of autosuggestion. This is what happens when you take control of your internal dialogue and reprogram it with intention, emotion, and relentless repetition. Most people never do this. They let their circumstances dictate their identity. They let their past failures write their future. They let other people's doubts become their own internal voice, but you have a choice. You can take control of the words you speak to yourself. You can reprogram your subconscious. You can write a new identity into existence through autosuggestion. The resistance you'll face here is what will happen when you start practicing autosuggestion. You'll feel foolish. You'll say your autosuggestion statement and a voice will say, "That's not true." You're lying to yourself. You're being delusional. This is silly. This won't work. That's your old programming fighting back. That's your subconscious defending the territory it has held for so long. That resistance is a sign you're doing something real. If it felt comfortable, you wouldn't be changing anything. Don't stop. Push through the discomfort. Push through the voice that says it's not working. Because here's the truth. It's working the moment you start, even if you can't see the results yet. Your subconscious is absorbing every repetition. Every word you speak with conviction is rewiring your neural pathways. Every time you repeat your new identity, you're weakening the grip of the old one. The change is happening, even in the silence, even when you feel like nothing is shifting. Most people quit here. They try autosuggestion for 2 weeks. Nothing feels different, so they assume it doesn't work and they go back to their old programming. Meanwhile, the person next to them keeps going. They repeat their autosuggestion for 3 months, 6 months, a year, and suddenly the external world catches up to what they've been programming internally. That's the difference between people who change and people who stay the same. Not talent, not luck, not circumstances. The difference is persistence in reprogramming until the old voice is finally drowned out by the new one. You don't need their permission. You don't need to feel like you believe it yet. You just need to say it. Keep saying it. Your subconscious will believe it long before your conscious mind does. The connecting truth. Here's what you need to understand. Your external reality is a manifestation of your internal dialogue. You are already using autosuggestion. You've been using it your entire life. The only question is, are you using it deliberately or accidentally? Are you programming yourself with intention or by default? If you've been accepting the negative internal dialogue, the voice that says you're not good enough, not talented enough, not worthy, then you've been using autosuggestion to create failure. You've been programming your subconscious to manufacture obstacles. You've been telling your nervous system to filter for evidence that you can't succeed. It's time to take control. Words shape identity. Identity drives action. Action produces results. Results validate the identity. And the cycle reinforces itself, either in your favor or against you. You've now mastered 3 foundational forces: desire, the obsession with your outcome; faith, the certainty that it will happen; and autosuggestion, the reprogramming of your subconscious mind to accept and support the new identity you're creating. But there's still a gap. You can have desire, faith, and a reprogrammed mind and still fail if you don't know what to do with it. You can reprogram your subconscious to believe in success and still never take the actions that create it. That's where the 4th force enters, the force that separates the dreamers from the doers. That's where decision becomes non-negotiable. Chapter: Fear specialized knowledge, learn. What matters? The trap of information. You have desire. You have faith. You've reprogrammed your mind. You're ready to move, and then you freeze. Because suddenly you realize you don't know everything you need to know. You're not an expert yet. You haven't mastered every skill. You haven't read every book. You haven't taken every course. You haven't learned everything. So you start learning, and learning, and learning. You accumulate certifications. You collect degrees. You buy courses. You read books on 10 different topics. You listen to podcasts. You attend seminars. You become an expert in general knowledge and you still don't move. This is the paralysis of the generalist. This is the prison of infinite learning. This is where ambition dies, not because of laziness but because of distraction disguised as preparation. Here's the truth you need to hear. General knowledge is power wasted. Specialized knowledge is power applied. You don't need to know everything. You need to know the right thing. One skill, one domain, one area of mastery that becomes your competitive edge, your unfair advantage, your economic moat. That's specialized knowledge. And that's what separates the people who achieve from the people who study achievement forever. The generalist traplet. Me be direct. The person who knows a little about everything knows nothing about anything. Modern culture celebrates the polymath, the well-rounded person, the lifelong learner who dabbles in everything. It sounds enlightened. It sounds sophisticated. It's actually mediocrity wearing a sophisticated mask. Think about the people who built empires, not people with broad knowledge, not people who were good at many things, people who were world-class at one thing, laser-focused, obsessed with mastery in a specific domain. They didn't become that way by studying 10 subjects. They became that way by choosing one subject and spending thousands of hours becoming the best at it. Bill Gates didn't build Microsoft by knowing a little about computers, a little about business, a little about sales, a little about finance. He chose software, deep knowledge of software. He spent decade after decade going deeper into that one domain until he understood it better than almost anyone else. Steve Jobs didn't build Apple by being a generalist. He became obsessed with the intersection of technology and design. That was his specialized knowledge. Everything he learned, every skill he developed, every person he connected with, it all funneled through that one obsession. Warren Buffett didn't become the world's greatest investor by knowing something about stocks, something about bonds, something about real estate, something about commodities. He chose one domain, value investing, and he spent 50 years becoming the best at it. One specialized knowledge, one competitive edge, one unfair advantage. Most people do the opposite. Most people try to be good at everything. Sales, marketing, operations, finance, design, customer service, leadership. They end up being mediocre at everything. You have a choice. You can be a generalist and spend your life being decent at many things, or you can be a specialist and spend your life being exceptional at one thing. One choice leads to ordinary income and ordinary impact. The other leads to disproportionate wealth and influence. That's the key. That's the difference between playing life on hard mode and playing it on normal mode. Specialized knowledge is your economic moat here. That's why specialized knowledge matters so much in the modern world. The market doesn't pay for general knowledge. The market pays for scarcity. The market pays for expertise. The market pays for the ability to do something that most people can't do. Think about compensation. A generalist, someone with broad, shallow knowledge, can be replaced. There are 10,000 people who could do that job. Maybe more. Replaceability drives down compensation. But a specialist, someone with deep specific expertise, cannot be easily replaced. There might be 100 people in the entire world who can do what they do. Maybe fewer. Scarcity drives up compensation dramatically. This is economics. This is not theory. This is observable reality. When you develop specialized knowledge in something valuable, something that people need, something that solves a real problem, you create an economic moat around yourself. You become defensible. You become valuable. You become indispensable, and indispensability pays. Here's what most people don't understand. You don't become indispensable by knowing a lot. You become indispensable by knowing the right thing so deeply that you can do it better than almost anyone else. One skill, one domain, one area of mastery. That's what creates leverage in your life. That's what allows you to command premium compensation. That's what allows you to build wealth. You don't need their permission. You don't need a credential. You don't need external validation. All you need is specialized knowledge and something valuable. The market will recognize it. The market will reward it. How specialized knowledge compounds. Here's what most people miss. Knowledge is not linear. Knowledge is exponential. When you're learning a new domain, the first 100 hours feel slow. You're learning fundamentals. You're absorbing vocabulary. You're understanding the basic framework. The progress feels glacial. But something happens at hour 500. Suddenly patterns start to emerge. You see connections others miss. You understand the principles beneath the surface. Your learning accelerates. By hour 1000, you're operating at a completely different level. You're no longer struggling with fundamentals. You're innovating. You're seeing opportunities that people with 100 hours of knowledge can't see. By hour 5000, you're in elite territory. You're in the top 1% of people who understand this domain. You're operating at a level of mastery that most people never reach. This is how specialization works. It's not linear progression. It's exponential. The more time you invest in one domain, the more valuable each additional hour becomes. Most people don't have the patience for this curve. They want rapid progress. They want quick wins, so they jump domains. They learn a little about this, then move to learning a little about that. They stay at hour 100 in 5 different fields instead of reaching hour 5001. That's the trap. That's the poison that kills ambition dressed up as learning. You have a choice. You can be a generalist forever, staying shallow in many areas. Or you can commit to the exponential curve of specialization, knowing that the first 1,000 hours feel slow, but the returns accelerate dramatically after that. Most people choose comfort. That's why most people stay ordinary. The Billionaire Case Study, One Skill, Entire Empire. Let me give you a concrete example of how specialized knowledge builds empires. Take Elon Musk. People often describe him as a polymath, someone who knows everything, who can operate in multiple domains. That's not accurate. Elon Musk's specialized knowledge is in one area: systems engineering at scale. Everything he's built, PayPal, Tesla, SpaceX, even the Boring Company operates on the same principle. Take a complex system that most people think is impossible to optimize and engineer it at massive scale, using first principles thinking. That's his specialized knowledge. That's his competitive advantage. That's what he knows better than almost anyone else in the world. He's not a physicist. He's not an expert in aerodynamics. He's not an engineer in the traditional sense. But he understands systems. He understands how to break down complex problems into fundamental principles and rebuild them more efficiently. That specialized knowledge, systems thinking at scale, is worth billions. It's transferable across industries. It's his unfair advantage in whatever domain he enters. Or take Jeff Bezos. His specialized knowledge was not in logistics or retail or technology. His specialized knowledge was in customer obsession combined with process optimization, understanding what customers wanted and building systems to deliver it relentlessly. That one specialized knowledge, customer-obsessed systems, allowed him to build an empire that spans e-commerce, cloud computing, logistics, entertainment, and more. Same specialized knowledge, different applications. Or take Mark Zuckerberg. Not a blockchain expert, not an AI specialist, not a metaverse theorist. His specialized knowledge was always platform architecture, understanding how to build systems that scale to millions of users and create network effects. One specialized knowledge, one competitive edge, one unfair advantage, and that single area of expertise allowed him to build one of the most valuable companies in human history. Notice the pattern. Not broad knowledge, not general expertise, one area of specialization, deep focused obsessive mastery in one domain, and that domain became the foundation for building empires worth tens of billions of dollars. Most people never even try to develop specialized knowledge. They stay generalists their entire lives. They're competent at many things and exceptional at nothing, and they wonder why they never build anything remarkable. You don't need their permission. You don't need a PhD. You don't need credentials. You just need to choose one domain, commit to it, and develop specialized knowledge so deep that you become unreplaceable. The choosing moment. How to identify your domain. So how do you choose? How do you know which domain to specialize in? Here's the truth. You choose based on intersection, not interest. Don't choose a domain because it sounds interesting. Don't choose it because other people think it's prestigious. Choose it at the intersection of three things: what you can become world-class at, what the market will pay for, and what aligns with the outcome you desire. First, honesty about your capability. What are you naturally skilled at? Not what you wish you were skilled at. What are you actually good at? What feels easier to you than it seems to feel to other people? That's your starting point. Second, market demand. Is there a market for this specialized knowledge? Will people pay for it? Is the market growing or shrinking? You can develop specialized knowledge in something nobody wants and be brilliant but poor. Make sure there's a market. Third, alignment with your goal. If your goal is to build $1 billion company, choose a domain that can support that scale. If your goal is to create meaningful impact in a specific field, choose a domain that matters to you. Make sure your specialization path actually leads to the outcome you want. When you find that intersection, your natural capability, market demand, and alignment with your goal, you've found your domain. That's where you specialize, then you commit. You don't dabble. You don't keep one foot in your old career while you explore this new one. You commit. You decide. You invest thousands of hours becoming world-class at this one thing. The first year feels slow. The second year feels slow. But by year 3, you start to feel the exponential curve. By year 5, people start asking you for advice. By year 7, you're operating at a different level entirely. By year 10, you're in elite territory. Most people never commit long enough to feel the exponential curve. They quit at year 2 because progress feels slow. They're impatient. They lack the faith that specialization actually works. But the people who commit, they build empires. The anti-specialization objection. You'll hear people say, but the world is changing. You need to be adaptable. You need to know multiple things. This is half true. And half-truth kills more ambition than outright lies. Yes, the world is changing. Yes, you need to be adaptable. But adaptability doesn't come from knowing a little about everything. Adaptability comes from having such deep knowledge in your specialized domain that you can apply it to new situations. The specialist adapts by going deeper. The generalist adapts by staying confused. A person with deep knowledge of systems engineering can apply that to any industry, any problem, any challenge, because they understand the underlying principles. A person with surface knowledge of 10 things can't apply anything to anything, because they understand nothing deeply. You don't need them permission. You don't need to be a Renaissance man. You need to be the best at one thing. And from that foundation of deep knowledge, you can adapt to anything. The connecting truth. Here's what you need to understand. Specialized knowledge is the currency of the modern economy. You have desire. You have faith. You've reprogrammed your mind. You're mentally prepared to move. But you can't move effectively if you don't know what to do. You'll expend energy in 10 directions instead of focusing power in one. Specialized knowledge gives you direction. It gives you focus. It gives you the ability to move with precision instead of flailing with vague ambition. General knowledge makes you conversational. Specialized knowledge makes you valuable. General knowledge opens doors. Specialized knowledge walks through them and builds an empire. You've now mastered 4 foundational forces. Desire, the obsession with your outcome. Faith, the certainty that it will happen. Autosuggestion, the reprogramming of your mind. And specialized knowledge, the focused expertise that makes you unreplaceable. But there's still something missing. You can have all of this and still fail if you don't know how to apply it. You can have specialized knowledge and never use it. You can be prepared and never move. You can be ready and never act. That's where the next force becomes essential. It's not about knowing. It's about doing. It's not about thinking. It's about action. That's where the final element of this foundation is locked in. Chapter 5: Imagination. The workshop of the mind. The invisible always precedes the visible. You have desire. You have faith. You've reprogrammed your mind. You have specialized knowledge. You're ready to act. But before you act, there's something you need to understand. Nothing that exists in the physical world began there. Every bridge started as a line on paper. Every building started as a blueprint. Every product started as a sketch. Every company started as a conversation. Every empire started as an idea in someone's mind. The visible world is just a manifestation of the invisible world that came before it. This is what most people don't understand. They think imagination is frivolous. Imagination is for artists and dreamers. Imagination is a luxury for people with time to waste. So they skip this step. They move directly to action without first building the blueprint in their mind. And then they fail. Not because they didn't work hard. Not because they didn't have desire or faith or knowledge. They fail because they never built it first in the invisible world. They never imagined it into existence. They never used their imagination as the workshop where their greatest achievements are constructed. Imagination is not frivolous. Imagination is foundational. Imagination is where every significant achievement begins. Imagination is the blueprint of reality. Here is a principle you need to lock into your mind. Thought is the blueprint of reality. This is not metaphor. This is not poetry. This is observable fact. Take any physical object in your room right now. Your phone, your chair, your desk, your lamp. All of it started as a thought, as an imagination, as someone literally thinking, what if we made something that looks like this and does this? The thought came first. The physical object came second. The invisible precedes the visible. Always. When an engineer designs a building, they don't start building. They imagine it first. They see it in their mind. Every detail, every angle, every stress point. They build it completely in imagination before a single brick is laid. And the finished building is simply the physical manifestation of what already existed in thought. When a composer writes a symphony, they don't start with random notes. They imagine the entire piece first. They hear it in their mind, the melody, the harmony, the crescendos, the emotions. They build the whole thing invisibly before writing it down or performing it. When an entrepreneur builds a company, they don't start by hiring people and renting office space. They imagine it first. They see the culture. They see the products. They see the impact. They see the future company completely formed in their imagination. And then they spend years building the physical manifestation of what they already saw. Imagination is the workshop. It's where you construct your achievement before the world ever sees it. Most people never do this. Most people skip the workshop. They move directly to raw action without the blueprint, and then they wonder why their results are mediocre and their progress is slow. But the people who take time to imagine first, they build with precision. They build with purpose. They build with the confidence that comes from having already seen the finished product. You have a choice. You can act without imagination and waste enormous amounts of effort building the wrong thing. Or you can spend time in the workshop of your mind first, building the blueprint that will guide all of your future action. One approach is scattered. The other is deliberate. That's the key. That's the difference between action that produces results and action that just produces noise. The workshop of the mind. How imagination works. Your imagination is not random. It's not frivolous daydreaming. It's a systematic tool that creates blueprints for your reality. Here's how it works. Your imagination is the place where you see possibilities that don't yet exist, where you envision solutions to problems that haven't been solved, where you construct entire worlds, complete businesses, finished products, all without touching anything physical yet. This is where innovation begins. Not in execution, not in hard work.
In imagination. When you use your imagination.
Deliberately. When you sit down and say, I'm going to imagine the finished version of my goal in complete detail. You're doing something neurologically powerful. You're activating the parts of your brain that design, that plan, that see patterns and connections. Your brain doesn't distinguish between imagining something vividly and experiencing it. The neural pathways light up the same way. Your nervous system responds the same way. You're literally training your brain to recognize the patterns and opportunities that will lead to the imagined outcome. Then here's what happens. As you move through the world with that blueprint locked in your mind, you start to see opportunities everywhere. You notice things you would have walked past. You make connections you wouldn't have seen before. You recognize people and resources that matter to your vision. This is not magic. This is neuroscience. Your reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters reality, is now filtering for things that matter to your imagined outcome instead of filtering randomly. Most people's imagination is passive. They daydream. They fantasize. They think about what would be nice, and then they go back to work. But they never deliberately construct a detailed blueprint in their imagination. Deliberate imagination is different. It's focused. It's detailed. It's specific. You're not just daydreaming about success. You're actually constructing what success looks like, what it feels like, what it sounds like. Every detail. You don't need their permission. You don't need anyone to validate your imagination. The workshop of your mind is private. It's where you build what will eventually become your reality. Construction in the invisible world. Let me break down what deliberate imagination actually looks like in practice. First, you enter the workshop. You sit down. You quiet the outside noise. You give yourself space to think without interruption. This is not optional. If you're thinking about your imagined outcome while distracted by email and notifications, you're not in the workshop. You're just daydreaming. Second, you see the finished product, not vaguely. Specifically, if you're building a business, you imagine the headquarters. What does it look like? How does it feel to walk in? What's the energy? Who works there? What are they doing? What's the product? What problems does it solve? See it completely. If you're building a skill, you imagine yourself already possessing it at an elite level. You're not imagining yourself learning. You're imagining yourself teaching others because you've already mastered it so completely. See yourself working with the skill at the highest level. If you're transforming your health, you imagine your body not as it is, but as it will be when you've reached your goal. You see yourself moving through the world with that body. You feel the energy. You notice how people respond differently to you. See it completely. Third, you add sensory detail. Don't just see it. Hear it, feel it. Taste it if relevant. Smell it if relevant. The more sensory detail you add, the more real it becomes in your nervous system. Your brain is being trained to recognize this as possible because you've already experienced it mentally. Fourth, you add emotion. How do you feel when you're in the workshop of your imagined outcome? Gratitude, pride, relief, excitement? Those emotions are the glue that makes the imagination stick. That makes it real to your nervous system. Fifth, you repeat. Not once, daily, multiple times. The workshop is not a one-time visit. It's a place you return to repeatedly. Every time you return, the blueprint becomes more detailed, more refined, more real. This is where the greatest achievements are actually built, not in the physical world, not in execution, in the invisible workshop of imagination that precedes everything. The Steve Jobs case study. Imagining what the world couldn't yet see. Let me give you the perfect example of how imagination precedes and shapes physical reality. Steve Jobs imagined the iPhone when the world couldn't yet imagine touchscreens. Nobody asked for the iPhone. The market didn't demand it. Competitors weren't working on it. The technology that would make it possible didn't even exist yet in accessible form, but Jobs imagined it. He saw a device with no buttons, just a smooth screen, touch responsive, intuitive, beautiful. A device that would put 1,000 songs in your pocket, and then go far beyond that into a complete pocket. Computer Jobs spent years in the workshop of his mind with this vision. He saw it, he felt it. He imagined people holding it, using it, loving it. He imagined the ecosystem around it, the apps, the connection to computers, the seamless integration of hardware and software. Here's what's remarkable. The technology didn't exist when Jobs imagined it. The manufacturing process didn't exist. The supply chain didn't exist. The market didn't exist, but the blueprint existed. The vision existed, the imagination existed, and then Jobs took that imagined blueprint and converted it into reality. He brought together the right people. He directed them toward the vision he had already constructed in his mind. He made decisions that aligned with that blueprint. He rejected ideas that didn't fit. He pushed for refinements that moved the imagined product closer to the physical one. It didn't just sell products. It changed how billions of people interact with technology. It opened entire new categories of products and services that didn't exist before. All of it started in the workshop of Jobs' imagination. He saw what the world couldn't yet see. He built it first in his mind, and then he spent years converting that invisible blueprint into physical reality. Most people never do this. Most people either have an idea and immediately try to execute without imagining the full vision, or they imagine vaguely, and then lose the vision when execution gets hard. But Jobs was different. He lived in the workshop. He refined the vision constantly. He held it so clearly that everyone around him, his team, his partners, his suppliers, could feel it, could see it through his eyes, could understand what they were building toward. That's the power of imagination. That's what happens when you use your mind as a workshop, instead of as a consumer of entertainment and distraction. Imagination without action is useless now. Here's the important caveat. Imagination without action is just fantasy. There are people who spend their entire lives imagining. They see the vision so clearly that they feel like they've already achieved it. They experience the emotional satisfaction of success in their imagination, and then they do nothing in the physical world. That's not imagination. That's escapism. That's using the workshop to hide from the actual work of creation. Real imagination is always pregnant with action. The blueprint is not complete until you begin building. The vision is not real until you start making decisions in the physical world that align with it. But here's the key distinction. The action that follows imagination is precise. It's guided. It's purposeful. You're not thrashing around trying 10 different things. You're building the physical manifestation of the blueprint you already constructed. When Jobs imagined the iPhone, he didn't then waste time building smartphones that looked like Android devices. He built toward the vision he had imagined. When an architect imagines a building, she doesn't then waste the construction phase building something random. She's building the structure she already saw in her mind. The imagination is the blueprint. The action is the construction according to that blueprint. You have a choice. You can act without imagination and build mediocre, scattered results. Or you can spend time in the workshop first, build a clear blueprint, and then act with precision and purpose toward that vision. One approach produces noise. The other produces masterpieces. The refinement loop. Imagination improves through iteration here, is something crucial that most people don't understand. Imagination improves through use. The first time you sit down to imagine your completed goal, it's vague, fuzzy. You see general outlines. You see some details. But it's not crystal clear. But the second time you return to the workshop, it's sharper. You've thought about it. Your unconscious mind has been working on it. So you see more detail. You refine what you saw before. You imagine deeper. By the 10th time, it's vivid. By the 50th time, it's so clear you could draw it. By the 100th time, you've imagined it so completely that the physical world is just catching up. This is why repetition in the workshop matters. This is why deliberate imagination is a discipline, not a one-time event. Most people imagine once and then move on. They never refine. They never deepen. They never let the vision become so detailed and so powerful that it guides every action they take. But the great achievers, they return to the workshop constantly. They're always refining the blueprint, always deepening the vision, always adding more detail. By the time they move into massive action, the blueprint is so clear that execution is almost secondary. You don't need their permission. You don't need anyone to validate the workshop. You can spend hours imagining in complete privacy, and the more time you spend there, the more powerful your blueprint becomes, and the more inevitable your results become. Connecting imagination to your specialized knowledge. Here's where imagination and specialized knowledge work together. You can't imagine what you don't know. If you don't have specialized knowledge in your domain, your imagination will be limited by your lack of knowledge. You'll imagine within the bounds of what you already know. But when you combine specialized knowledge with imagination, something powerful happens. You have the deep knowledge of your domain. You understand what's possible and what's not. You understand the principles. And then you use your imagination to see the possibilities within that knowledge that others have missed. This is innovation. This is where breakthroughs come from. Not from people who don't know the field trying to do something crazy, but from people who know the field deeply, who understand the constraints, and then who use their imagination to see possibilities within those constraints that others have missed. Edison had deep knowledge of electricity and mechanics. Then he imagined the light bulb in a way that fit within the constraints and possibilities of that knowledge. Jobs had deep knowledge of technology, design, and human psychology. Then he imagined products that combined those domains in ways others hadn't seen. Specialized knowledge gives you the foundation. Imagination gives you the vision. Together they create innovation, the connecting truth. Here's what you need to understand. Imagination is not the opposite of action. Imagination is the blueprint that makes action powerful. You have desire. You have faith. You've reprogrammed your mind. You have specialized knowledge. You're ready to do the work. But if you don't first imagine the finished product in complete detail, your work will be scattered. Your effort will be inefficient. You'll be building without a blueprint. Imagination is where you construct the invisible reality that will eventually become the visible one. It's where you build the blueprint that will guide all of your future action. It's where you see possibilities that don't yet exist so clearly that you can spend years making them real. The workshop of your mind is not a luxury. It's a necessity. It's the place where all significant achievement is actually constructed before the world ever sees it. You've now mastered 5 foundational forces: desire, the obsession with your outcome; faith, the certainty that it will happen; autosuggestion, the reprogramming of your mind; specialized knowledge, the focused expertise that makes you dangerous; and imagination, the blueprint of your future reality. But here's the problem: you still haven't moved. You're prepared. You're mentally ready. You've imagined it. You know what to do. But execution hasn't started. Preparation is not achievement. Imagination is not results. Readiness is not action. There's a gap between the internal foundation and the external world. There's a gap between knowing and doing. There's a gap between preparation and results. That gap is closed by only one thing: discipline. Chapter 6. Organized Planning. From Vision to Victory. The bridge between imagination and reality. You have desire. You have faith. You've reprogrammed your mind. You have specialized knowledge. You've imagined your future in complete detail. Now comes the moment where most people fail. They have the vision. They can see it. They believe in it. They want it with every fiber of their being, but they don't know how to get from here to there. So they start moving. They take action. They hustle. They work hard. And they move in circles. Without a plan, action is just noise. Without direction, effort is just exhaustion. Without structure, your work goes nowhere. Or it goes somewhere, but not where you intended. This is where organized planning enters the equation. Planning is not the enemy of action. Planning is not overthinking. Planning is not hesitation. Planning is the bridge between your vision and your victory. It's the structure that converts imagination into motion. It's the direction that makes effort productive. Dreams fail without direction. That's not a metaphor. That's observable reality. The graveyard is full of people with big dreams and zero plans. The difference between fantasy and strategy. Let me be direct. Most people confuse having a goal with having a plan. You can have a goal. I want to build $1 million business. You can have desire. You can have faith. You can visualize it daily, and you can still have zero plan for how to actually get there. That's not a plan. That's a fantasy. That's a dream with better branding. A real plan answers specific questions. It's not vague. It's not theoretical. It's concrete and operational. Here's what a real plan includes. What exactly will you do? In what order? With what resources? By what dates? How will you know if you're on track? What will you do when obstacles appear? How will you measure success? These are not optional questions. These are the questions that separate people who achieve from people who fantasize. Most people never answer these questions. They just move. They take whatever action feels good in the moment. They react to circumstances instead of moving toward a predetermined destination, and then they wonder why they never get anywhere. Action without a plan is chaos. You're moving, but you're not going anywhere specific. You're burning calories without running a race. You're working, but you're not building. But here's the flip side. Planning without action is also fantasy. I know people who are brilliant planners. They spend years perfecting their plan, refining, researching, making sure every detail is perfect. And they never execute. They're so focused on having the perfect plan that they never actually move. You have a choice. You can move without a plan and waste years in circles. You can plan without moving and waste years in preparation. Or you can plan with precision and execute with discipline. One produces chaos. One produces paralysis. One produces victory. That's the key. That's the difference between people who build things and people who talk about building things. What organized planning actually means. Organized planning is not complicated. It's just structured thinking about how you're going to get from point A to point B. Start with the end. You've already imagined it. You know what victory looks like. Now work backwards. If that's where you want to end up, what has to be true right before that? What's the step before that? And the step before that? By working backwards from your vision, you create a sequence, a structure, a roadmap. Next, identify the major milestones. Not every tiny step. The significant turning points. The moments that matter. These are usually between 5 and 12 major milestones between where you are and where you want to be. If you have more than 20, you're not identifying milestones. You're creating a to-do list. Then, for each milestone, identify the key actions required. Not every action. The actions that matter. The things that, if done well, move you closer to your goal. If you identify 50 actions required, you're overthinking. Get it down to 5-10 key actions per milestone. Next, assign timeline. When will each milestone be completed? Not someday. Not eventually. Specific dates. This forces clarity. This forces commitment. This forces you to think about how realistic your plan actually is. Finally, identify the resources required. Money, people, knowledge, equipment, permissions. What do you need to execute each milestone? Where will you get those resources? How will you acquire them? That's organized planning. It's not complicated. It's just thinking systematically about how to get from where you are to where you want to be. Most people never do this. Most people have a general direction and then just start moving. They optimize for activity instead of progress. They measure effort instead of results. They call themselves busy while accomplishing nothing significant. But the people who plan, they move with purpose. They know what matters. They know what doesn't. They measure real progress, not just effort. You don't need their permission. You don't need a fancy planning system. You just need to think systematically about how you're going to achieve your goal. The obstacle planning. Expecting the expected, here's what separates a plan from wishful thinking. Acknowledging that obstacles are coming. Most people make a plan and then act shocked when reality gets in the way. An unexpected expense. A key person leaves. A competitor moves into your space. Market conditions change. Something breaks and then they say, I didn't plan for this. But if you were planning intelligently, you would have planned for this. Not this specific thing, but the category of thing, obstacles, setbacks, resistance. Organized planning includes obstacle planning. You're not just planning what you're going to do, you're planning for what might stop you, and you're creating contingency responses before the obstacle appears. This is not paranoia. This is wisdom. This is acknowledging that reality includes resistance. For every major milestone in your plan, ask, what could stop this from happening? What obstacles are likely? What resources might disappear? What people might fail me? What external factors might change? Then for each potential obstacle, ask, if this happens, what's my response? Do I have a backup plan? Do I have alternative resources? Do I have an alternative path to the same milestone? This is not overthinking. This is realism. This is the difference between a plan that survives contact with reality and a plan that collapses the moment something unexpected happens. Most people never do this. Most people make a plan and then move forward assuming everything will go according to plan. And when obstacles appear, and they always do, they panic. They abandon the plan. They start flailing. But people who have planned for obstacles, they've already thought through responses. They've already accepted that resistance is coming. They're not surprised. They're not paralyzed. They simply activate their contingency plan and keep moving. You have a choice. You can make a fragile plan that breaks the moment reality doesn't cooperate, or you can make a robust plan that bends when necessary but doesn't break. One produces panic when obstacles appear. The other produces persistence. The Henry Ford case study. Planning through failure. Let me give you an example of organized planning at the highest level. Henry Ford didn't invent the automobile. He wasn't even the first person to think about assembly line production, but he had something most people didn't have: a detailed long-term plan. Ford's plan was simple in concept, but complex in execution. Make cars so affordable that ordinary people could buy them. His vision was the Model T, a reliable, mass-produced vehicle that would be accessible to the average American. But here's where most people's story ends. Here's where Ford's story was just beginning. Because Ford faced massive obstacles. The production methods didn't exist. The supply chains didn't exist. The infrastructure didn't exist. The technology didn't work reliably. Competitors had more capital, better engineering, better reputation. Ford could have quit. He had enough obstacles to justify giving up. But he didn't quit because he had organized a plan. He didn't just want to build a car. He had planned exactly how to do it. He had thought through the production process. He had designed the supply chain. He had planned the training systems for workers. He had planned the quality control. He had planned the pricing strategy. He had planned the distribution network, and then crucially, he had planned for failure. He expected things to go wrong. So when they did, he wasn't surprised or paralyzed. He simply refined the plan and kept moving. The Model T development involved hundreds of failures. prototypes that didn't work, materials that wouldn't perform, processes that were inefficient, workers who didn't understand the system. But Ford didn't abandon the plan when he hit obstacles. He refined it. He tested new approaches. He measured results. He kept moving forward systematically. He went bankrupt twice. In the middle of building his empire, he ran out of money. But because his plan was organized and clear, he was able to reorganize, secure new financing, and restart. Most people go bankrupt once and they're done. They interpret it as a sign that their vision was wrong. Ford interpreted it as an obstacle to plan around. He organized a new approach. He executed. He kept moving. By 1913, Henry Ford had built the first assembly line that could produce cars at massive scale. By 1920, over half of all cars in America were Model Ts. By 1927, over 15 million Model Ts had been produced. All of it came from organized planning, from thinking systematically about how to get from vision to victory, from expecting obstacles and planning responses, from continuing to execute even when things went wrong. This wasn't luck. This wasn't genius. This was the power of organized planning combined with relentless execution. Planning is not prediction. Here's a critical distinction. Organized planning is not trying to predict the future perfectly. Some people don't plan because they say, I can't predict everything, so why plan? This is like saying, I can't see the entire path to the mountain, so I won't climb it. The goal of planning is not perfect prediction. The goal of planning is clarity of direction. A good plan gives you direction. It might not be perfect. You'll find better paths as you move forward. You'll discover more efficient ways to do things. You'll learn things you didn't know before. That's fine. That's expected. But the plan provides direction. It says, move in this direction, and if you discover a better path, adjust. It doesn't say follow this exact route no matter what. Most people either overplan, trying to predict and plan for every possible scenario, or underplan, assuming planning is pointless if they can't predict everything. Organized planning is the middle path. You plan enough to have direction. You make assumptions explicitly so you can update them when reality provides better information. You build flexibility into your plan so you can adjust without losing direction. This is not weakness in planning. This is strength. It's acknowledging that the future is uncertain while still providing enough structure to move productively toward your goal. You don't need their permission. You don't need to predict everything. You just need to organize your thinking enough to move with direction instead of flailing randomly. The 3 levels of planning. Organized planning works at 3 different time scales. You need all 3. First, the long-term plan. This is your 3 to 5 year roadmap. This is the major milestones and phases. Where do you want to be in 3 years? What has to be true about your business, your skills, your life to make that happen? This is the vision organized into structure. Second, the annual plan. This is taking that 3 to 5 year plan and asking, what specifically needs to happen this year? What milestones need to be hit? What does success look like? This is the long-term plan brought into focus for immediate action. Third, the quarterly plan. This is taking the annual plan and asking, what specifically needs to happen in the next 90 days? What are the key actions? What are the milestones? What are we measuring? This is where the abstract becomes concrete and tactical. Most people skip the long-term plan. They just react quarter to quarter. So they work hard but never build anything coherent. Or they make a long-term plan and never translate it into quarterly and annual execution. So it stays theoretical. You need all 3. The long-term plan gives you direction. The annual plan brings it into focus. The quarterly plan makes it operational. With all 3 levels, you know exactly what you're working toward. You know exactly what needs to happen now. You know how it connects to something larger. You're not just reacting, you're building systematically. Execution. Where the plan meets reality. Here's where organized planning often fails. Execution. A plan is only as good as your commitment to executing it. You can have the most beautiful, detailed, well-thought-out plan in the world, but if you don't execute against it, it's just words. Execution means you measure yourself against your plan. Did you hit the milestones? Did you take the key actions? Did you complete what you committed to? Most people make a plan and then abandon it the moment something feels more urgent or more interesting. They lack the discipline to keep executing according to the plan even when impulses and distractions pull them elsewhere. But real execution is boring. It's not exciting. It's not inspirational. It's just, you said you'd do this by this date, and you either did it or you didn't. You measured yourself against reality. That's where the plan becomes real. That's where intention becomes results. Not in the planning phase. In the execution phase, you have a choice. You can make a plan and then ignore it. Or you can make a plan and then execute it relentlessly, adjusting as needed but always moving in the direction you planned. One produces mediocrity. One produces results, connecting planning to discipline. Here's where organized planning connects to everything that comes next. A plan without discipline is just daydreaming. A plan with discipline is a roadmap to victory. Your plan is useless if you don't commit to executing it. Your plan is powerful if you build daily habits and systems that execute against it. Your plan is transformative if you become so disciplined in your execution that you hit milestone after milestone. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you stop talking about your vision and start building it. This is where planning becomes real. You have desire. You have faith. You've reprogrammed your mind. You have specialized knowledge. You've imagined your future. You've organized a plan. But none of that means anything if you don't execute. And execution requires discipline. It requires daily action. It requires saying no to distractions. It requires staying focused on your plan even when other things feel more urgent. It requires measuring yourself against your commitments and actually following through. That's the next force. That's what separates people who plan from people who achieve. The connecting truth. Here's what you need to understand. Organizing your thinking is as important as organized thinking itself. You have a vision. It's detailed. It's clear. You can see it. But if you don't organize that vision into a plan, it stays invisible. It stays theoretical. It stays in the workshop of your mind instead of manifesting in the physical world. A plan is a vision structured into motion. It's imagination translated into action steps. It's the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Most people never build this bridge. They have the vision. They have the desire, but they skip the planning step and jump directly to chaotic action. Or they plan but never execute. They're either scattered or frozen. You've now mastered 6 foundational forces. Desire, the obsession with your outcome. Faith, the certainty that it will happen. Autosuggestion, the reprogramming of your mind. Specialized knowledge, the focused expertise. Imagination, the blueprint of your future. And organized planning, the structure that converts vision into motion. But here's the problem. You still haven't built the systems that will convert planning into relentless daily execution. You have a plan. You know what to do. But knowing what to do is not the same as doing it every single day. Planning is not execution. Structure is not habit. Intention is not action. There's still one more force that takes everything you've learned and converts it into the reality of your life. That force is discipline. Chapter 7, Decision. The mastery of the action where knowledge becomes power. You have desire. You have faith. You've reprogrammed your mind. You have specialized knowledge. You've imagined your future in complete detail. You've organized a plan with milestones and timelines and contingencies. Now comes the moment that separates the dreamers from the doers. Decision. This is where it gets real. This is where preparation meets commitment. This is where you stop analyzing and start moving. This is where you take everything you know and convert it into irrevocable action. Most people never get here. Most people live in the preparation phase forever. They study, they plan, they gather information, they optimize the blueprint. They wait for the right moment. They wait for more certainty. They wait for permission. They wait for a guarantee that things will work out. And while they're waiting, life passes them by. There's a principle you need to understand. Successful people decide fast and change slowly. The unsuccessful do the opposite. The successful person sees an opportunity. They gather the relevant information. They think through the consequences. Then they decide. They commit. It's done. They're moving. And then, as they gain new information, as they encounter obstacles, as they learn what works and what doesn't, they adjust slowly, methodically, without abandoning the fundamental decision. The unsuccessful person has a chance. They think about it. They gather more information. They're still thinking about it. They research. They consult. They doubt. They change their mind. They change it back. They're still undecided, and while they're deciding, someone else decides and wins. This is the difference. This is why some people build empires and others build nothing. Decision is not about certainty. Decision is about commitment. You don't decide because you know everything will work out. You decide because you've done enough thinking, and now it's time to move. You're comfortable with the risk. You've accepted that things might not work perfectly, and you're moving anyway. That's decision. That's mastery of action. That's what separates those who achieve from those who analyze forever, the indecision trap. How doubt manufactures failure. Let me be direct about what indecision actually costs you. Indecision is not neutral. It's not like you're just taking your time. Indecision is active. It's manufacturing doubt. It's creating hesitation. It's breeding fear. It's telling your nervous system that there's something dangerous here, something to be afraid of. The longer you don't decide, the more doubt accumulates. The more you research, the more options you see. The more options you see, the more overwhelming the choice becomes. The more overwhelming the choice becomes, the more certain you are that you're not ready. You don't know enough. You need to gather more information. This is a downward spiral. This is a vortex of indecision that pulls people into paralysis. Here's what happens neurologically. When you're undecided, your brain is holding two competing ideas simultaneously. Option A versus option B. Both seem plausible. Both have advantages and disadvantages. Your brain wants to resolve this conflict, so it keeps generating new reasons to doubt both options. It keeps searching for the perfect option that has no downsides. That option doesn't exist, but your brain will keep you searching for it indefinitely. It will keep you in the indecision vortex, convinced that if you just gather a little more information, think about it a little longer, you'll find the answer. And while your brain is spinning, time is passing. Your competitors are deciding. Your opportunities are closing. Your window is shutting. Most people don't realize this. Most people think they're being thoughtful and deliberate. They think they're being cautious. They think they're protecting themselves by not deciding too quickly. What they're actually doing is manufacturing their own failure through chronic indecision. Indecision breeds doubt, and doubt kills destiny. That's not poetic language. That's cause and effect. The person who decides and commits is building momentum. The person who's undecided is building paralysis. You have a choice. You can gather information forever and never commit. Or you can gather enough information, make a decision, and then move with the confidence that comes from commitment. One produces analysis paralysis. One produces results. That's the key. That's the difference between people who talk about their dreams and people who live them. Decision is not the same as certainty here. As where most people get confused. They wait to decide until they're certain. But certainty doesn't come before decision. Certainty comes after decision. Certainty is the confidence that develops through committed action. Certainty is knowing that you made the right choice because you committed to it and made it work. Listen to successful entrepreneurs talk about the moment they decided. Most of them didn't have certainty. Most of them were terrified. Most of them had doubts. Most of them had no guarantee that it would work. But they decided anyway. They accepted the uncertainty. They accepted the risk. They accepted that they might fail. And they moved. Why? Because they understood something crucial. Uncertainty is not a reason to delay. Uncertainty is a reason to decide faster. Because the longer you wait for certainty that will never come, the longer you're not building, the longer you're not learning, the longer you're not getting the actual feedback from the market that will either validate your decision or teach you to adjust. Certainty comes through action. Doubt is resolved through commitment. You don't gain confidence by thinking longer. You gain confidence by doing. This is why successful people decide fast. They're not reckless. They're not stupid. They're not ignoring risk. They're just acknowledging that risk is permanent. Uncertainty is permanent. You never get perfect information. You never have a guarantee, so you might as well decide and start moving, because you'll learn more in 3 months of action than you will in 3 years of analysis. You don't need their permission. You don't need certainty. You don't need a guarantee. You just need to decide. You just need to commit. Everything else follows from that. The anatomy of a real decision. Let me break down what a real decision actually looks like. A real decision is not a wish. It's not an intention. It's not a goal. A real decision is irrevocable. It's final. It's I am doing this. Not I'm trying to do this, not I might do this, not I'll probably do this eventually. I am doing this. When you make a real decision, something shifts. Your mind stops hedging. Your mind stops looking for exit ramps. Your mind starts organizing everything toward making that decision work. Here's what precedes a real decision. You've done enough thinking. You've gathered enough information. You've considered the downsides. You've accepted the risks. You understand what could go wrong. And you've decided that moving forward anyway is better than staying where you are. That's it. You don't need perfect information. You don't need zero risk. You just need to have thought about it enough that you're comfortable moving forward despite the uncertainty. Then you decide. You make the choice. You commit to it. And crucially, this is the part most people miss. You stop reconsidering. Successful people decide and then they commit to their decision. They don't second-guess themselves constantly. They don't revisit the choice every day. They don't keep asking, did I make the right decision? They've decided. Now they're executing. Now they're learning. Now they're gathering the real information that comes from action, not from more analysis. The unsuccessful person decides and then keeps reconsidering. They're halfway committed. They're hedging their bets. They're keeping their options open. And that half commitment is worse than no commitment at all, because you're spending energy on execution while simultaneously leaking energy through doubt. You have a choice. You can make a decision and fully commit to it, or you can make a decision and keep questioning it. One produces momentum. One produces chaos. Change slowly. The power of commitment. Here's the second part of the principle. Successful people change slowly. Once they've decided, once they've committed, they don't abandon the decision at the first sign of difficulty. They don't change direction every time something goes wrong. They don't quit when they don't see results immediately. This is where most people fail. They make a decision, they move. They hit an obstacle, and they decide differently. They abandon the original commitment. They try a new approach, and when that doesn't work immediately, they change again. This is what I mean by changing fast. Not changing your mind quickly based on new information, but changing direction constantly, never giving anything enough time to work. never committing long enough to see results. Successful people do the opposite. They decide, they commit, they move, they hit obstacles, and then they adjust their approach while staying committed to the original decision. There's a difference between changing your decision and refining your execution. Changing your decision means abandoning the original commitment. Refining your execution means adjusting how you're pursuing that commitment. Most people can't distinguish between these two. So when an approach doesn't work, they think the decision was wrong. They think the goal was wrong. So they change everything. But successful people understand the goal might still be right. The approach just needs adjustment. Here's a concrete example. You decide to build a business. Your first marketing approach doesn't work. Does this mean you should abandon the decision to build the business? No. It means you should adjust your marketing approach while staying committed to the business. But most people see a failed marketing approach and think it means the business idea was wrong. So they quit. They try a different business. 6 months later, they hit an obstacle there too, so they quit again. Meanwhile, the person who adjusted their marketing approach while staying committed to their business is now seeing results. They're 6 months deeper into their commitment. They're learning what works. They're refining. They're building. That's the difference. That's what successful people understand. You have a choice. You can make a decision and then change constantly when obstacles appear, or you can make a decision and commit to it long enough for it to work. One produces scattered results. One produces compound results. The entrepreneur case study. Decision at the edge. Let me give you the example of someone who exemplifies the power of decisive commitment. Take Elon Musk in 2008. PayPal had just sold to eBay. He had money. He could have retired. He could have lived a comfortable life. No risk. No pressure. Instead, he decided to go all in on two things: Tesla and SpaceX. Both were considered impossible at the time. The auto industry was dominated by massive corporations with centuries of experience. Building a viable electric vehicle seemed like fantasy. Space travel was dominated by government agencies. The idea that a private company could do it was laughable, but Musk decided. He committed. He didn't just invest in these companies. He put his entire fortune at risk. He took personal debt. He mortgaged his reputation. He wasn't hedging his bets. He was all in. Then 2008 happened. The financial crisis hit. Musk was facing bankruptcy. Both companies were on the edge of failure. Most people would have reconsidered their decision at that moment. Most people would have said, "This was a mistake. I need to change direction. I need to minimize losses." But Musk didn't change his decision. He refined his execution. He optimized costs at Tesla. He adjusted SpaceX's approach. He found new financing. He kept moving toward the original commitment even though everything was falling apart. By 2010, both companies had turned the corner. By 2015, Tesla was becoming profitable. By 2020, SpaceX had achieved what was once considered impossible. By 2023, Tesla was worth over $1 trillion. None of that happens if Musk had changed his decision when things got hard. All of that happens because he decided, committed completely, and then refined his execution while staying committed to the decision. This wasn't luck. This wasn't genius. This was the power of decision combined with slow, deliberate commitment to that decision. Most entrepreneurs are not like this. Most entrepreneurs make a decision, move for a few months, hit an obstacle, change directions, try the new direction for a few months, hit an obstacle, change again. They're scattered. They're not committing long enough for anything to work. But the ones who win, they decide, they commit, they move, they adjust, they stay committed, and they keep doing this until they win. The decision-making framework. So how do you make good decisions? How do you distinguish between recklessness and confidence? Here's the framework. First, gather relevant information, not infinite information. Just the information that matters. What are the potential downsides? What's the cost if you fail? What's the cost if you don't move? What does the market say about this? What have others learned who tried similar things? Give yourself a reasonable time frame to gather this information. Not forever, 2 weeks, a month. Whatever's reasonable. Second, identify your assumptions. What do you believe has to be true for this to work? Write them down. Make them explicit. Because assumptions you don't acknowledge are assumptions that will blindside you later. Third, assess your risk tolerance. Can you afford to lose this? Can you handle the potential consequences? Are you comfortable with the downside? If no, reconsider. If yes, move forward. Fourth, make the decision. You've gathered enough information. You've identified your assumptions. You've assessed the risk. Now decide. Not tomorrow, now. Commit. Fifth, commit fully to the decision. This doesn't mean never adjusting. This means you're not reconsidering the fundamental decision. You're moving with full force. You're not hedging. You're not keeping options open. You're executing the decision completely. Sixth, gather feedback and adjust. As you move, as you execute, you'll learn things. Adjust your approach. Refine your execution, but keep moving toward the decision you've made. This is how good decisions get made. This is how commitment gets built. This is how you move from analysis to action. The cost of indecision. Let me be clear about what indecision actually costs. Every day you don't decide is a day your competitors are moving. Every day you don't commit is a day someone else is committing to the same opportunity. Every day you're analyzing is a day someone else is executing. This is not theoretical. This is real. In competitive environments, speed matters. The person who decides first often wins simply because they have more time to build, to learn, to refine. But beyond competition, there's a personal cost. The cost of living in indecision is the cost of your life. It's the cost of your potential. It's the cost of your dreams. Because indecision is not a holding pattern. Indecision is a slow death of ambition. Every day you don't decide is a day you're not building momentum. Every day you're undecided is a day your doubt is accumulating. Every day you're analyzing is a day your fear is growing. At some point you have to stop preparing and start executing. At some point you have to stop analyzing and start doing. At some point you have to accept that certainty will never come, and you have to decide anyway. You don't need their permission. You don't need perfect information. You don't need a guarantee. You just need to decide. You just need to commit. And then you need to move. Everything else, all the doubt, all the fear, all the what-ifs, becomes irrelevant the moment you commit and start moving. Decision as the bridge to discipline. Here's where decision connects to everything that comes next. Decision is the moment. Discipline is the practice that follows. A decision without discipline is just a moment of enthusiasm that fades. A decision with discipline is a commitment that becomes a lifestyle. You've made your decision. You've committed. Now comes the part that matters. Doing the work every single day to honor that commitment. That's discipline. That's where intentions become results. That's where dreams become reality. Decision is the moment you cross the Rubicon. Discipline is the army you build on the other side. You have desire. You have faith. You've reprogrammed your mind. You have specialized knowledge. You've imagined your future. You've organized a plan. You've decided. Now comes the final element. The element that takes everything and converts it into daily, relentless, inevitable execution. The connecting truth. Here's what you need to understand. Indecision is not caution. Indecision is cowardice dressed up as thoughtfulness. The brave decision is not the decision you make when you have complete certainty. The brave decision is the decision you make when you're uncertain but you commit anyway. Most people never learn this. Most people wait for certainty. Most people wait for the perfect moment. Most people wait for permission. And most people never build anything significant because they never stop waiting. You've now mastered 7 foundational forces: desire, the obsession with your outcome; faith, the certainty that it will happen; autosuggestion, the reprogramming of your mind; specialized knowledge, the focused expertise; imagination, the blueprint of your future; organized planning, the structure that converts vision into motion; and decision, the commitment that converts planning into action. But here's the final truth. None of this means anything without one more element. You can decide. You can commit. But if you don't back that decision with daily discipline, it will fade. The initial enthusiasm will wear off. The obstacles will mount. The doubt will return. And you'll be back where you started. That's where the final force enters the equation. That's where everything you've learned converges into a single practice. The daily discipline that converts your decision into inevitable results. Chapter 8. Persistence, the mindset that refuses to quit where dreams die or thrive. You have desire. You have faith. You've reprogrammed your mind. You have specialized knowledge. You've imagined your future. You've organized a plan. You've decided. You've committed, you're moving, and then reality hits. You take action and it fails. Not catastrophically. Not all at once. But the results don't match your expectations. The market doesn't respond the way you thought it would. The strategy you planned doesn't produce the outcome you imagined. You invested time, energy, money, and you got nothing back. This is the moment. This is where the vast majority of people quit. Not because they lacked desire. Not because they didn't have a plan. Not because they weren't committed. But because when reality didn't cooperate with their timeline, they decided it wasn't working. They decided to try something else. They decided to give up. This is where the winners separate from the quitters. This is where persistence becomes the only force that matters. Most people quit too early. They quit when they're inches away from breakthrough. They quit when they've done 90% of the work, but haven't yet seen 100% of the results. They quit not because the goal is impossible, but because the path is harder and longer than they expected. Persistence is the filter between wishers and winners. It's the force that separates people who talk about their dreams from people who live them. It's the mindset that refuses to quit when everything inside you is screaming to stop. Without persistence, everything you've learned in the previous chapters means nothing. Your desire will fade, your faith will weaken, your commitment will waver, and you'll be right back where you started, telling stories about what you could have done if things had been easier. The definition of persistence. Not what you think. Let me be clear about what persistence actually is, because most people get this wrong. Persistence is not blind stubbornness. It's not banging your head against a wall forever and expecting different results. Persistence is not refusing to adjust your approach when the evidence clearly shows you're moving in the wrong direction. Persistence is intelligent stubbornness about your goal while remaining flexible about your methods. You persist toward your vision. You persist toward your outcome, but you're constantly gathering feedback about whether your current approach is working. And if the evidence shows your approach isn't working, you adjust your approach while staying committed to the goal. This is the distinction most people miss. They think persistence means doing the exact same thing over and over. But that's not persistence. That's insanity. Real persistence is different. Real persistence is saying, my goal is non-negotiable. My timeline might expand. My methods might change. My strategy might shift. But my commitment to reaching this goal is absolute. You have a choice. You can be rigidly committed to a particular approach and quit the moment it doesn't work. Or you can be absolutely committed to a particular outcome and flexibly adjust your approach until you find what works. One produces quitters. The other produces winners. That's the key. That's what separates persistence from stubbornness. Why people quit. The timeline trap. Here's what kills most people's persistence. Timeline mismatch. When you set a goal, you have an expectation about how long it will take. You read a success story. You hear about someone building $1 million business in 5 years. You hear about someone getting fit in 3 months. You hear about someone learning a new skill in 100 hours. So you internalize that timeline. You think, I'll do that too. 5 years. 3 months. 100 hours. And you start moving toward your goal with that timeline in mind. Then reality doesn't match the timeline. Month 3 comes and you don't have the results you expected. Month 6 comes and you're still behind. Month 12 comes and you're wondering if this is actually possible. And here's what happens. You quit. Not because the goal is impossible, but because the timeline didn't match reality. Because you weren't progressing as fast as you thought you should be. This is the timeline trap. This is what kills persistence before it has a chance to work. Here's the truth about timelines. Your timeline is a guess. It's based on someone else's story. It's based on best-case scenarios. It's based on survivorship bias. You're hearing from the people who succeeded, not the people who took 3 times longer. Real persistence requires removing the attachment to timeline. It's saying, I'm committed to this outcome. I don't know exactly how long it will take. It might take longer than I expected, but I'm moving toward it regardless of the timeline. This is revolutionary for most people. This is liberating. Because the moment you stop measuring yourself against a timeline, the moment you stop expecting instant results, the moment you accept that real achievement takes time, your persistence becomes unbreakable. Most people never get here. Most people stay attached to their timeline, and when reality doesn't match the timeline, they quit and interpret that as evidence that the goal is impossible. But the goal isn't impossible. The timeline was just wrong. You don't need their permission. You don't need to hit some arbitrary deadline. You just need to persist until you reach your goal, no matter how long that takes. Failure is not defeat. The Edison Principle. Let me give you the most powerful example of persistence in human history. Thomas Edison tried to invent the light bulb. He tested over 1,000 different materials. Over 1,000, do you understand what that means? That means he failed over 1,000 times. Most people would have quit at failure number 10. They would have interpreted it as evidence that the idea wasn't viable. They would have moved on to something easier. But Edison didn't quit. He didn't interpret failure as defeat. He interpreted failure as data. Each failure taught him something. Each failure eliminated one more approach that wouldn't work. Each failure brought him closer to the approach that would. By the 1,000th attempt, he knew what wouldn't work. So he tried something different. And it worked. The light bulb was invented. Not because Edison was more talented than other people, but because Edison was more persistent than other people. Here's what Edison said about his process. I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. This is the mindset of persistence. This is not positive thinking. This is not delusion. This is a fundamental reframing of what failure means. Failure is only defeat if you accept it as defeat. If you refuse to accept it, if you treat it as data instead of verdict, then failure becomes just another step on the path to success. Most people see failure and they quit. The persistent person sees failure and they learn. Most people see obstacles and they stop moving. The persistent person sees obstacles and they find another path around them. You have a choice. You can let failure defeat you, or you can let failure teach you. One produces quitting, one produces breakthrough. The Colonel Sanders Story. Persistence at 62. Let me give you another example of persistence that changed an entire industry. Colonel Harlan Sanders wanted to franchise his chicken recipe. He had a restaurant and he had a recipe that he believed in completely. He thought other restaurants could use the same recipe and it would work everywhere. So he started going to restaurants with his pitch. He wanted to franchise his chicken recipe and his cooking method. He offered it to them. They said no. He went to another restaurant. They said no. Another. No. He went to 1,008 restaurants. 1,008. Do you understand what that means? That means he heard no 1,008 times. Most people would have quit after no. Number 10. They would have said clearly nobody wants this. They would have accepted the rejection and given up. But Colonel Sanders kept going. He heard no 100 times and kept going. He heard no 500 times and kept going. He heard no 108 times and then finally heard yes. And that first yes changed everything. That one restaurant that said yes became the foundation of Kentucky Fried Chicken, which became one of the most successful restaurant franchises in human history. Here's the crucial part. By the time Colonel Sanders succeeded, he was 62 years old. He had been working on his recipe for decades. He had been rejected 1,008 times. Most people at 62 years old are thinking about retirement. Colonel Sanders was just getting started. This is persistence. This is refusing to accept no as final. This is continuing to move forward even though everything around you is telling you to stop. Most people never develop this. Most people hear no a few times and they accept it as truth. But the Colonel Sanders of the world hear no 1,000 times and it only confirms that they're onto something worth persisting for. You have a choice. You can accept no and quit, or you can interpret no as not yet and keep moving. One produces mediocrity, one produces empire. The obstacle reframe, your biggest advantage here, is something that separates people with deep persistence from people with shallow persistence. People with deep persistence don't see obstacles as obstacles. They see obstacles as information. They see obstacles as tests. They see obstacles as the thing that separates them from the people who quit. Think about it. If success was easy, everyone would be successful. The fact that success is difficult is your advantage. Because while everyone else is quitting when things get hard, you're the one who keeps moving. The obstacle becomes your competitive advantage. The difficulty becomes your moat. The very thing that causes 99% of people to quit is the thing that makes you unbeatable if you persist through it. Most people see difficulty and they think something is wrong. They think the goal is impossible. They think they're not capable. But people with persistence see difficulty and they think something is right. They think the goal is worth it. They think the difficulty is exactly why it will be valuable. Here's the reframe that matters. Every obstacle you overcome is an obstacle your competition couldn't overcome. Every barrier you push through is a barrier that eliminated your competition. Every challenge that makes you stronger makes the next person who tries weaker. This is how you build an unbeatable advantage. Not through being lucky, not through being talented. Through persisting through obstacles that everyone else quits at. You don't need their permission. You don't need talent. You don't need luck. You just need to see obstacles differently. You just need to persist through the things that make everyone else quit. That's the key. That's the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. The persistence formula. How to build unbreakable resolve. So, how do you actually build persistence? How do you train yourself to keep moving when everything inside you is screaming to stop? Here's the formula. First, clarify your why. Your why is not your goal. Your why is your reason for pursuing the goal. It's what will sustain you when results aren't showing up. When you're tempted to quit, your why is what keeps you moving. Make your why specific. Make it emotional. Make it real. Not, I want to be successful, but I want to build this so my kids grow up knowing their dad built something extraordinary. Or I want to prove to myself that I'm capable of more than people told me. Or, I want to impact 1 million people with this idea. Your why has to be big, enough that obstacles can't kill it. Your why has to be strong enough that you'll persist even when results are slow. Second, Measure progress, not results. Results are the finish line. Progress is every step toward the finish line. If you're only measuring results, you'll quit before you see them. But if you're measuring progress, you'll see that you're moving forward even when results are far away. Are you closer to your goal today than yesterday? Did you take the actions you committed to? Did you learn something? Did you adjust your approach based on feedback? These are progress. These are real. These are the things you measure when you're building persistence. Third, create accountability. Tell someone what you're committing to. Find someone who will check in with you. Create external pressure that forces you to persist, even when internal motivation fades. Because internal motivation will fade. It always does. But external accountability keeps you moving. Fourth, celebrate small wins. Don't wait for the big result. Celebrate the progress. Celebrate the obstacles overcome. Celebrate the fact that you didn't quit today. These celebrations reinforce the behavior of persistence and make it easier to keep going. Fifth, connect daily actions to your long-term vision. Every single day, ask yourself, how does what I'm doing today connect to the vision I committed to? Is it moving me closer? Is it teaching me something? Is it making me stronger? This connection keeps your daily work meaningful and your persistence fueled. Sixth, expect obstacles and plan for them. Don't be surprised when things get hard. Expect it. Plan for it. Know that obstacles are coming and you're prepared to handle them. This removes the sense of injustice when difficulty appears. Difficulty isn't a sign something is wrong. It's exactly what you planned for. The persistence wall. When quitting seems rational here, as the moment that separates the persisting from the quitting, the persistence wall. The persistence wall is the moment, usually 3 to 6 months into a project, when the results haven't shown up yet. But the difficulty is fully apparent. You've been working hard. You've been committed. You've overcome obstacles. But the external world hasn't validated your effort yet. You're pouring in input and not seeing output. This is when quitting seems rational. This is when giving up seems like the smart move. This is when you can tell yourself a story about how the goal was impossible, and you did your best. Most people hit the persistence wall and they quit. They think this isn't working, so I should try something else. But they don't realize that the next goal will also have a persistence wall. And if they quit at that wall too, they'll never build anything. The people who build things understand the persistence wall. They know it's coming. They know it feels terrible. They know it seems rational to quit. But they know that the only way to break through is to keep going. So they adjust their approach. They gather new information. They refine their strategy. They move differently. But they keep moving. And at month 7 or month 8 or month 10, the results start to show up. The external world finally validates what they've been working on internally. But they only see that validation because they didn't quit at the persistence wall. Most people never get to see the validation because they quit before they reach it. They spend their lives telling stories about what could have been if they'd just persisted a little longer. You have a choice. You can hit the persistence wall and quit, or you can hit the persistence wall and push through it. One produces failure. One produces success. Persistence is not personality. It's practice. Here's something crucial. Persistence is not something you're born with. It's not a personality trait. It's a practice. It's a skill you build. Some people are naturally more patient. Some people are naturally less reactive to setbacks. But persistence is not dependent on your personality. Persistence is something you practice into being. Every time you don't quit when you feel like quitting, you're building persistence. Every time you hit an obstacle and you adjust instead of abandoning, you're building persistence. Every time you face rejection and you keep moving forward, you're building persistence. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. The less you use it, the weaker it becomes. Most people never build this muscle because they quit early and often. They don't have persistence because they've never practiced it. But the people who build things, they've practiced persistence so many times that it becomes automatic. They don't even have to think about it anymore. Quitting is no longer an option their mind even considers. You don't need their permission. You don't need to be born with a certain personality. You just need to practice not quitting. You just need to practice pushing through obstacles. You just need to practice persisting when it would be easier to quit. That's the key. That's how you build unbreakable resolve. The final test. When persistence becomes your identity. Here is what happens when you've practiced persistence long enough. Persistence stops being something you do. Persistence becomes who you are. It becomes your identity. It becomes the automatic response to obstacles. It becomes the thing that other people recognize about you. That's the person who doesn't quit. When you reach that level, you've won. Not because you've achieved all your goals, but because you've become the type of person who achieves goals. You've become someone who persists, and that person will eventually build whatever they set their mind to. This is the ultimate power of persistence. It's not just about achieving one goal. It's about becoming someone who achieves. It's about building the identity of a person who refuses to quit. And that identity will carry you through every obstacle, every setback, every difficulty for the rest of your life. Most people never develop this identity. Most people build identity around being lucky or talented or smart. But those things fade. But the identity of a person who persists, that never fades. That only gets stronger. That carries you through everything. The connecting truth. Here's what you need to understand. Persistence is not the sexiest force. It's not the most inspiring. It's not what sells books or gets people excited. But persistence is the force that separates the people who talk about their dreams from the people who live them. Persistence is the force that converts commitment into results. Persistence is the force that takes everything you've learned and actually makes it real. You have desire. You have faith. You've reprogrammed your mind. You have specialized knowledge. You've imagined your future. You've organized a plan. You've decided. You're moving, but movement alone is not enough. Effort alone is not enough. You have to persist when results don't show up. You have to persist when obstacles appear. You have to persist when every voice inside you is screaming to quit. This is the final filter. This is the force that converts preparation into results. This is the force that takes people from wannabe to achiever. Persistence is the mindset that refuses to quit. It's the practice of continuing to move forward even when difficulty mounts. It's the commitment to your goal that survives every obstacle. It's the persistence that turns underdogs into winners and wishers into achievers. The final truth, you've now mastered 8 foundational forces. Desire, the obsession with your outcome. Faith, the certainty that it will happen. Autosuggestion, the reprogramming of your mind. Specialized knowledge, the focused expertise. Imagination, the blueprint of your future. Organized planning, the structure that converts vision into motion. Decision, the commitment that launches you forward. And persistence, the mindset that refuses to quit. These 8 forces combined and practiced daily are unstoppable. These 8 forces convert ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. These 8 forces transform dreams into reality. But understanding these forces and applying them are different things. Understanding is intellectual. Application is transformational. The final chapter will teach you exactly that. The daily practice, how to take these 8 forces and weave them into the daily disciplines that guarantee your results and make failure impossible. Chapter 9. The Mastermind. The Power of Alliance Opening. The illusion of solo achievement. You have desire. You have faith. You've reprogrammed your mind. You have specialized knowledge. You've imagined your future. You've organized a plan. You've decided. You're moving with persistence. You're doing everything right. You're executing. You're hitting milestones. You're overcoming obstacles. You're building momentum, but you're doing it alone. And here's what most people don't understand. The solo path only gets you so far. There's a ceiling. There's a limit to what one person can accomplish. No matter how driven, no matter how disciplined, no matter how persistent. The greatest achievements in human history were never built by one person working alone. They were built by groups of extraordinary people working together toward a shared vision. They were built by masterminds, collections of brilliant minds that amplified each other's thinking, challenged each other's assumptions, and created outcomes that none of them could have created individually. This is the power of the mastermind. This is where individual excellence becomes collective brilliance. This is where your success multiplies rather than just adds. Most people never access this power. Most people stay isolated. They protect their ideas. They compete with everyone. They see other people as threats instead of allies. And they stay small. They stay limited. They never reach the heights they could have reached if they had built a mastermind. This chapter is about changing that. This chapter is about understanding that success multiplies through connection and collaboration. This chapter is about surrounding yourself with minds greater than yours and having your power compound exponentially. The ceiling of solo achievement. Let me be direct. You have limits. You have limits to what you know. You have limits to what you can do. You have limits to how many hours you can work. You have limits to your perspective. You have limits to your capabilities. This is not weakness. This is reality. Every human being has limits. The question is, what are you going to do about your limits? Most people accept their limits. They work within them. They build a ceiling on their achievement that matches their limitations. A person with one skill set can only build things that require that skill set. A person with one perspective can only see solutions through that perspective. A person with one network can only access resources available through that network. But some people refuse to accept their limits. Some people understand that other people can provide what they lack. Other people can see what they can't see. Other people can do what they can't do. Other people can bring capabilities they don't have. So instead of working alone within their limits, they build a mastermind. They surround themselves with people who are stronger in areas where they are weak. They create a collective intelligence that is far greater than any individual intelligence could be. This is not networking. This is not making friends. This is not collecting business cards. This is strategic alliance. This is purposeful collaboration. This is building a group of people with complementary skills, perspectives, and resources that work together toward a shared outcome. You have a choice. You can accept your limits and stay small, or you can recognize your limits and build a mastermind that transcends them. One produces individual success that plateaus. The other produces collective success that compounds. That's the key. That's the difference between people who reach their potential and people who never do. What a mastermind actually is. Let me define this precisely, because most people misunderstand what a mastermind is. A mastermind is not a group of friends who get coffee together. It's not a casual network of acquaintances. It's not just people in the same industry talking about their problems. A mastermind is a strategic alliance of people with complementary skills, diverse perspectives, and shared commitment to a common outcome, who meet regularly to challenge each other's thinking, hold each other accountable, and accelerate each other's progress. Here are the key elements. First, complementary skills. The people in your mastermind should have skills you don't have. If everyone in the room thinks the same way and has the same capabilities, you're just amplifying your own limitations. You want people who are strong where you are weak. You want people who have expertise you don't have. You want people who can do things you can't do. Second, diverse perspectives. You want people who will challenge you. People who think differently than you do. People who will question your assumptions. People who will see blind spots you can't see. People who will push you to think bigger and bolder than you would think alone. Third, shared commitment. Everyone in the mastermind has to be committed to the group's success. Not just their own success, but the collective success. There needs to be genuine investment in each other's growth. There needs to be willingness to share knowledge, open doors, make introductions. Fourth, regular meeting and accountability. A mastermind is not a one-time thing. It's a regular practice. You meet consistently, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever the frequency. And in those meetings, you challenge each other. You hold each other accountable. You celebrate wins. You problem-solve obstacles. When these four elements come together, something powerful happens. The thinking gets sharper. The decisions get better. The obstacles get solved faster. The results multiply. Most people never build this because they don't understand what it actually is. They think it's about networking. They think it's about collecting important people. They think it's about being around smart people and hoping some of their intelligence rubs off. But that's not how it works. A mastermind is a deliberate structure. It's strategic. It's intentional. It's built with clarity about why each person is there and what the group is collectively working toward. You don't need their permission. You don't need to be rich or famous to start a mastermind. You just need clarity about what you're building and the willingness to seek out people who want to build it with you. The mastermind multiplier effect here is where the real power of a mastermind emerges. The multiplier effect. When you're working alone, progress is additive. You work harder, you make more progress. You add more hours, you add more results. It's linear. One person plus effort equals incremental improvement. But when you're in a mastermind, progress is multiplicative. It's not one person plus effort. It's multiple people with complementary skills, diverse perspectives, and shared commitment, all working together toward a shared outcome. This creates exponential improvement. Let me give you the math. If you're working alone and you're 90% capable in your domain, you're limited to 90% of what you can accomplish. But if you're in a mastermind with 4 other people, and each person is 90% capable in their domain, collectively you're not 90% capable. You're exponentially more capable, because each person's 90% combines with the other's capabilities to create something far greater than any of them could create individually. This is not theory. This is observable reality. Look at any major breakthrough. Look at any transformation. Look at any rapid growth. Almost always there's a mastermind behind it. The printing press, engineered by Gutenberg with contributions from artisans and metalworkers and business people who understood distribution. The telephone, invented by Bell but only became transformative through a network of investors, engineers, and business strategists. The light bulb, Edison's invention but made possible by specialists in electricity, manufacturing, and distribution. Every single one of these breakthroughs had a mastermind behind it. Not one genius working alone, but a group of talented people with complementary capabilities working together. You have a choice. You can build alone and stay limited by your own capabilities, or you can build a mastermind and multiply your capabilities exponentially. One produces linear progress. One produces exponential progress. The Carnegie, Ford, and Edison alliance. Let me give you a specific historical example of mastermind power: Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, and Thomas Edison. These are 3 of the most powerful minds in American history. Each of them was capable of building empires individually. Each of them had genius-level capabilities. But their collective power was so much greater than their individual power that history was transformed by their alliance. Carnegie understood steel and business organization. Ford understood manufacturing and production systems. Edison understood invention and innovation. Separately, each was extraordinary. Together, they created something unprecedented. When these 3 minds connected, they didn't just share information. They challenged each other. Edison would propose an innovation. Carnegie would think about how to scale it. Ford would think about how to manufacture it efficiently. Each person's thinking would spark new ideas in the others. The result was transformative. The steel frame construction that built American skyscrapers, the manufacturing systems that brought products to millions, the electrical systems that powered the modern age, the automobile that transformed transportation. None of these breakthroughs happened because one person had an idea and executed it alone. They happened because these three minds were in alliance. They were challenging each other. They were pushing each other to think bigger. They were solving problems together that none of them could have solved individually. And the industrial age, the entire foundation of modern civilization, was shaped by this mastermind. Here's what's remarkable. Carnegie, Ford, and Edison could have competed with each other. They could have protected their secrets. They could have stayed isolated. Each of them would have built an empire. But because they understood the power of alliance, they chose to collaborate. And history was forever changed. Most people never understand this. Most people see other successful people as competition. So they protect their ideas. So they work alone. So they never access the multiplier effect. So they build smaller than they could have built. But the people who understand the power of mastermind, they actively seek out other extraordinary people. They build alliances. They share knowledge. They challenge each other. And they build things that transform industries and shape history. You have a choice. You can see other successful people as threats, or you can see them as potential collaborators. One keeps you small. One multiplies your power. Building your mastermind. The strategic approach. So how do you actually build a mastermind? How do you go about finding these people and creating this alliance? Here's the strategic approach. First, clarify what you're building. Before you can find the right people, you have to be clear about what your goal is. What outcome are you trying to create? What problem are you solving? What opportunity are you pursuing? This clarity is what will attract the right people. Second, identify the skills and perspectives you need. You can't be great at everything. So what are you naturally strong at? What are your core skills? And therefore, what skills do you need from other people? What perspectives do you lack? What capabilities would complement yours? Write these down. Be specific. Not, I need a smart person, but I need someone with deep expertise in finance who can model complex scenarios and see patterns in data. Not, I need a strategic thinker, but I need someone who questions assumptions and isn't afraid to challenge conventional wisdom. Third, identify the people who have these skills and perspectives. Start with your existing network. Who do you already know who has one of these capabilities? Then expand beyond your network. Who else in your industry, your city, your country has the expertise you're looking for? Fourth, invite them strategically. Don't just ask, want to hang out? Be specific about what you're building and why you think they would be valuable to the group. Make it clear that this is not about them doing you a favor. This is about a strategic alliance that benefits everyone involved. Fifth, be clear about the structure and commitment.
How often will you meet?
What will you work on? What are the expectations? What does participation look like? Be clear so everyone knows what they're committing to. Sixth, be generous. Bring value to the mastermind first. Share your knowledge. Make introductions. Help solve problems. Don't come to the mastermind as a taker. Come as a giver. The masterminds that work are the ones where everyone is actively looking to lift everyone else up. This is how you build a mastermind. It's not complicated. It's just strategic and intentional. You don't need their permission. You don't need to be wealthy or famous. You just need clarity about what you're building and the courage to reach out to extraordinary people and invite them into alliance. The specific benefits. What mastermind delivers? Let me be concrete about what you actually get from a mastermind. First, accelerated problem solving. When you're facing an obstacle alone, you have one perspective to work with. Your perspective. But in a mastermind you have 5, 10, 20 perspectives. Suddenly the obstacle that seemed insurmountable has 10 possible solutions. Problems that would take you weeks to solve alone get solved in an hour through collective thinking. Second, accountability. When you're alone, it's easy to make excuses. It's easy to delay. It's easy to settle for mediocre execution. But when you have a mastermind, you have people who are expecting you to follow through. You have people who will ask, "Did you do what you committed to?" This accountability drives execution in a way that internal motivation never can. Third, perspective. You're trapped in your own way of thinking. You see problems through your perspective. You evaluate opportunities through your perspective. But in a mastermind, you get exposed to different ways of thinking. You see situations through different lenses. You get access to insights that would have taken you years to develop on your own. Fourth, introductions and access. Every person in your mastermind has a network. Every person has contacts you don't have. Every person has relationships and resources that are now accessible to you. One introduction can open a door that would have taken you years to open alone. Fifth, emotional support. Building something significant is hard. There are moments of doubt, moments of failure, moments when you want to quit. In a mastermind, you have people who understand what you're going through, people who have faced similar challenges, people who will remind you of your vision and your capabilities when you've temporarily lost faith. Sixth, collective intelligence. When 5 brilliant minds work together on a problem, the solution is not 5x better than if one person worked on it. It's often 100x better. The collective intelligence multiplies the individual intelligence exponentially. This is what mastermind delivers. This is why it's so powerful. This is why every person who has built something significant has had a mastermind. The vulnerability requirement here is something crucial that most people miss. A mastermind requires vulnerability. You have to be willing to share your real challenges, not just your wins. You have to be willing to admit what you don't know. You have to be willing to be challenged. You have to be willing to have your ideas questioned and your assumptions tested. Most people aren't willing to do this. Most people want to be the smartest person in the room. Most people want to protect their image. Most people want to project confidence while hiding their doubts and challenges. But that destroys the mastermind. Because if you're not being real, if you're performing instead of being authentic, then the mastermind can't help you. The advice will be surface level. The accountability will be superficial. The connections will be shallow. A real mastermind requires real vulnerability. It requires you to say, "I'm stuck on this." It requires you to admit, "I don't know how to do that." It requires you to hear hard feedback without getting defensive. This is why the best masterminds are often with people you trust deeply. Not because they're your friends, but because you trust them enough to be vulnerable with them. You trust them enough to be real. You trust them enough to share your weaknesses, not just your strengths. You don't need their permission. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be real. You just need to be willing to be challenged and to grow. The mastermind. Paradox. Giving multiplies your receiving. Here's something paradoxical about masterminds. The more you give, the more you receive. The person who comes to the mastermind looking to extract value gets very little, but the person who comes looking to contribute value gets exponential returns. This is because trust and reciprocity are the foundations of mastermind power. When you show up and you're thinking about how you can help other people solve their problems, when you're offering your perspective without expectation, when you're making introductions without keeping score, people reciprocate. They do the same for you, but it's not transactional. It's not, "I helped you, so you help me." It's deeper than that. It's a culture of lifting each other up. It's a shared belief that everyone's success makes the group stronger. It's a commitment to each other's growth. Most people never create this. Most people are too focused on extracting value, so they stay shallow. They don't get invited back. They don't build real relationships. They don't access the real power of mastermind. But the people who understand this paradox, they come to mastermind thinking about contribution, and they get back exponentially more than they gave. You have a choice. You can come to mastermind as a taker or as a giver. One produces shallow connections. One produces transformative alliances. The evolution of mastermind. Here's something important to understand. Your mastermind will evolve. You might start with 3 people. As you grow, your needs change. You might add people who have expertise you're only now recognizing you need. You might evolve from a casual monthly meeting to a structured weekly meeting. You might evolve from problem-solving focus to strategic planning focus. This is healthy. This is growth. Your mastermind should evolve as you evolve. But here's what's crucial. Don't mistake evolution with abandonment. Some people build a mastermind that works beautifully at one stage of their journey, and then when they reach a new stage, they abandon the people who helped them get there. This is a mistake. The people who helped you get to where you are should be celebrated. They should be brought along. They should evolve with you. Not everyone will make the transition. Some people will have served their purpose and naturally move on. But the core people who understood your vision and invested in your growth should be brought forward. This is what separates people who build through manipulation from people who build through genuine alliance. The manipulator uses people and discards them when they're no longer useful. The alliance builder brings people forward. You don't need their permission. You don't need to recreate your mastermind every year. You just need to honor the people who helped you and bring them forward as you evolve. The connecting truth. Here's what you need to understand. Success is not a solo sport. You have desire. You have faith. You've reprogrammed your mind. You have specialized knowledge. You've imagined your future. You've organized a plan. You've decided. You're persisting. You're executing, and you can do all of this alone and build a small version of what you dreamed of. Or you can add mastermind to this foundation and multiply your impact exponentially. The greatest achievements in human history were not built by one person working alone. They were built by groups of extraordinary people, aligned around a shared vision. They were built by masterminds where each person's strengths complemented other strengths, where diverse perspectives created innovative solutions, where collective intelligence exceeded any individual intelligence. You've now mastered 9 foundational forces: desire, the obsession with your outcome; faith, the certainty that it will happen; autosuggestion, the reprogramming of your mind; specialized knowledge, the focused expertise; imagination, the blueprint of your future; organized planning, the structure that converts vision into motion; decision, the commitment that launches you forward; persistence, the mindset that refuses to quit; and mastermind, the power of alliance that multiplies everything. These 9 forces are the foundation of unstoppable achievement. These 9 forces are what separate ordinary people from extraordinary people. These 9 forces, understood and practiced daily, are what create empires, transform industries, and shape history. But understanding is not enough. Knowledge is not enough. You can know all 9 forces and still not build anything if you don't integrate them into a daily practice. You can understand mastermind and still not access its power if you don't actually build alliances. That's the final element. That's what separates knowledge from achievement. That's what converts theory into reality. The final integration. Here's what comes next. You take these 9 forces. You integrate them into your daily life. You build them into systems and habits that run on autopilot. You make them so much a part of who you are that they stop being things you think about and become who you are. That's when the magic happens. That's when you stop being a person who knows about achievement and become a person who achieves. That's when you stop talking about building something and actually build it. That's when the invisible becomes visible. That's when dreams become reality. This is the culmination. This is where understanding becomes practice. This is where knowledge becomes power. The 9 forces are yours. The path is clear. The power is within you. Now comes the moment of truth. Will you apply these forces, or will you remain a student forever? That decision is yours and yours alone. Chapter 10. The Subconscious Mind, the Hidden Power. Within opening, the invisible operating system. You have mastered 9 forces. You have desire. You have faith. You've reprogrammed your conscious mind. You have specialized knowledge. You've imagined your future in complete detail. You've organized a plan. You've decided. You're persisting. You're building masterminds. You're moving. You're executing. You're building. But there's something operating underneath all of this that you haven't fully understood. Something that runs 24 hours a day, whether you're paying attention or not. Something that is either accelerating your achievement or sabotaging it. That something is your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is not a luxury. It's not something for meditation retreats or philosophy classes. Your subconscious mind is the operating system of your entire life. It's the invisible force that determines what you attract, what you create, what you build, and what you achieve. And most people have no idea they're being controlled by it. Your conscious mind is the part that thinks, that plans, that makes decisions. That's the 10% of your mind that you're aware of. But your subconscious mind is the other 90%. It's running in the background, processing information at speeds your conscious mind can't match. Making decisions before your conscious mind even realizes there's a decision to be made. And here's the crucial part. Your subconscious mind doesn't think. It accepts. It doesn't analyze, it acts. It doesn't question what you feed it. It simply processes whatever thoughts, images, and beliefs you consistently give it and converts them into your reality. You are programming your future with your present focus. Right now, every single day, every thought you entertain, every image you visualize, every belief you accept, you're programming your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind is programming your life. Most people are programming their subconscious accidentally. They're feeding it fear, doubt, negativity, limitation, and then they wonder why their life doesn't change. They wonder why they keep attracting the same obstacles. They wonder why they keep making the same mistakes. But it's not mysterious. It's not luck. It's direct cause and effect. You're programming your subconscious with thoughts of failure, and your subconscious is organizing your life to produce failure. This chapter is about taking control of that programming. This chapter is about mastering the hidden power within you. This chapter is about understanding that you are the programmer, not the program. The subconscious never sleeps. Let me be direct about how powerful your subconscious mind actually is. Your subconscious mind never stops working. It doesn't take breaks. It doesn't need sleep. Even when you're sleeping, your subconscious is working. It's processing information. It's organizing your experiences. It's making meaning out of chaos. It's literally constructing your reality while you're unconscious. This is both terrifying and liberating. It's terrifying because if you're feeding your subconscious negative programming, it's working against you 24 hours a day. You sleep for 8 hours, and your subconscious is still organizing your fear. You take a break and your subconscious is still processing your doubt. You try to relax and your subconscious is still working on the belief that you're not capable. But it's also liberating, because if you feed your subconscious positive programming, if you feed it images of success, if you feed it beliefs of capability, if you feed it certainty about your future, your subconscious works for you 24 hours a day. While you sleep. While you're doing other things. While you're not consciously thinking about your goal. Your subconscious is your invisible employee. It's working on your behalf constantly. The only question is, are you paying it to work toward your dreams or against them? Most people never think about this. Most people don't realize they have a subconscious employee that's either building their future or destroying it, so they leave the programming to chance. They let their subconscious absorb whatever random thoughts and fears and doubts float through their mind, and then they're shocked when their subconscious organizes their life to match those thoughts and fears and doubts. But the people who understand this, they take control. They deliberately program their subconscious. They feed it success. They feed it images of their future. They feed it certainty, and their subconscious works for them 24 hours a day, organizing their life toward that vision. You have a choice. You can leave your subconscious programming to chance, or you can deliberately master it. One produces accidental results. One produces intentional results. That's the key. That's the difference between people who drift through life and people who deliberately construct it. The mental diet. You are what you think. Here's a principle you need to understand. You are what you think, not metaphorically, literally. The thoughts you consume become your reality. The images you visualize become your neural pathways. The beliefs you accept become your operating system. This is why mental diet is as important as physical diet. When you consume junk food, your body becomes junk. When you consume junk thoughts, your mind becomes junk. When you consume thoughts of limitation, your life becomes limited. When you consume thoughts of possibility, your life becomes possible. Your mental diet is everything you consume mentally. The news you watch, the podcasts you listen to, the people you spend time with, the books you read, the conversations you have, the social media you scroll through, all of it is feeding your subconscious mind. Most people never think about their mental diet. They consume whatever is available. They watch the news because it's on. They listen to gossip because it's around them. They scroll social media because it's there. They spend time with negative people because they're convenient. They never ask, is this feeding my vision or destroying it? Is this programming my subconscious for success or failure? But the people who achieve extraordinary things, they are ruthless about their mental diet. They are conscious about every single thing they consume. They ask every day, what am I feeding my mind? What thoughts am I entertaining? What images am I visualizing? What beliefs am I accepting? And they say no to anything that doesn't serve their vision. Not the negative news. Not the gossip. No to people who drain their energy. No to content that creates fear or doubt. No to anything that programs their subconscious toward limitation. This sounds extreme. This sounds like you'd be isolated. But it's not. It's focused. It's disciplined. It's the difference between leaving your mental programming to chance and taking control of it. You have a choice. You can consume whatever is available and hope your subconscious works out okay. Or you can be deliberate about your mental diet and program your subconscious toward success. One produces accidental lives. One produces intentional lives. The visualization mastery. Building in the invisible. This is where the power of the subconscious becomes undeniable. Your subconscious mind responds to visualization. When you visualize something vividly, when you see it in your mind with detail and emotion and sensation, your subconscious accepts it as real. It begins organizing your nervous system around that visualization. It begins attracting people, resources, and circumstances that align with that visualization. This is not magic. This is neuroscience. Your reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters reality, is organized by what you visualize. When you visualize your future vividly and consistently, you literally reprogram what your brain pays attention to. You reprogram what opportunities you notice. You reprogram what resources you attract. Here's how it works in practice. You decide to build a business. You don't just think about it. You visualize it. Every day you see the office in your mind. You see the team. You see the clients. You see the impact. You feel the emotions of success, gratitude, pride, relief, excitement. Your subconscious accepts this as your reality. It doesn't say, but you haven't built it yet. It says, this is what we're building toward. Your subconscious begins organizing your perception to notice opportunities that align with this visualization. Suddenly you notice a business article you would have skipped before. Suddenly you remember a contact who might help. Suddenly you see an opportunity that was there all along, but you didn't notice because you weren't visualizing it. This is the power of visualization, not because the universe is magical, but because your subconscious mind is reorganizing your perception and your action toward your visualization. Most people visualize once and they think it should work immediately. They visualize for a week and when nothing shows up, they quit. But visualization is not a one-time event. Visualization is a daily practice. The more you visualize, the more your subconscious accepts it as real. The more your subconscious accepts it as real, the more it organizes your entire being around it. This is why the people who win are the people who visualize daily, multiple times, with complete sensory detail, with genuine emotion, not as a nice supplement to their day, but as the foundation of their day. You don't need their permission. You don't need to believe it will work immediately. You just need to visualize consistently. Your subconscious will do the rest. Your subconscious will organize your life toward your visualization. The emotional programming. Feeling is the gateway here. There's something crucial that most people miss. Emotion is the gateway to your subconscious. Your subconscious doesn't respond primarily to logic. It responds to emotion. When you say something with genuine feeling, when you visualize something with real emotion attached, your subconscious accepts it deeper and faster. This is why autosuggestion works. It's not just the words. It's the emotion attached to the words. When you say, "I am building something extraordinary," without feeling, your subconscious hears it as noise. But when you say it with pride, with certainty, with excitement, your subconscious recognizes it as real. This is why visualization works. It's not just seeing the image. It's feeling the emotions attached to the image. When you see your future business in your mind and you feel genuine gratitude, genuine pride, genuine relief, your subconscious accepts that as the program to work toward. Most people neglect the emotional component. They try to manifest their future through positive thinking alone. They say affirmations in a monotone voice. They visualize their goal but feel nothing, and then they wonder why nothing changes. But the people who master this, they understand that emotion is the fuel. They attach genuine feeling to every thought they want their subconscious to accept. They visualize and they feel. They affirm and they mean it. They program their subconscious with both thought and feeling. This is exponentially more powerful than thought alone. You have a choice. You can feed your subconscious thoughts without emotion and hope something sticks. Or you can feed your subconscious thoughts with genuine, powerful emotion and reprogram your entire being. One produces weak programming. One produces unshakable conviction. The pattern reset. How lifelong habits disappear. Let me give you concrete examples of what happens when someone masters their subconscious. There's a woman who spent 40 years struggling with her weight. She tried every diet. She tried every exercise program. She tried every motivation technique. Nothing stuck. For 40 years she was overweight. For 40 years she made the same choices. For 40 years she created the same result. Then she discovered subconscious programming. She realized that her subconscious had been programmed for 40 years with the belief that she was overweight, that her body was naturally heavy, that she was destined to be this way. Every thought, every experience, every failure reinforced this programming. So she started reprogramming. Not through willpower, not through forcing herself to diet, but through deliberately feeding her subconscious a new image. She visualized her body as healthy. She visualized herself moving with energy and strength. She felt the emotions of being fit, confidence, pride, freedom. She did this daily, for months. She wasn't forcing herself to exercise. She wasn't denying herself food. She was reprogramming her subconscious mind. And then something shifted. Her body began to respond differently. The choices she made began to change. The food she was attracted to changed. The exercise she wanted to do changed. Not through willpower, through subconscious reprogramming. Within a year, she had lost weight and it stayed off. Not through effort, through programming. Her subconscious had accepted her new visualization as real and reorganized her entire life to match it. Here's another example. A man who spent his entire life as a people pleaser. He couldn't say no. He couldn't set boundaries. He was controlled by other people's expectations. It was destroying his life and his career. Then he understood subconscious programming. He realized he had been programmed since childhood, with the belief that his worth depended on other people's approval, so he started reprogramming. He visualized himself confident in his boundaries. He visualized himself saying no without guilt. He felt the emotions of being authentically himself, strength, relief, freedom. He did this daily, for weeks, and then it happened. In a conversation with someone, he said no, and instead of the guilt and the second-guessing, he felt calm. He felt congruent. His subconscious had accepted the new programming and it had reorganized his behavior. These aren't magical transformations. These are direct results of subconscious reprogramming. When you change what your subconscious believes about you, your entire life reorganizes to match that belief. Most people never do this. Most people are trapped in subconscious programming from their past. They repeat the same patterns because their subconscious is repeating the same programming. But the people who master this, they break generational patterns. They break lifelong habits. They transform their lives by transforming what their subconscious believes about them. You don't need their permission. You don't need to be special. You just need to reprogram your subconscious. You just need to feed it a new image of who you are and what's possible. Your subconscious will do the rest. The beliefs beneath the surface here is where most people get stuck. They don't understand the beliefs running underneath their conscious thoughts. You might consciously say, I want to be successful, but underneath, your subconscious might believe people like me don't succeed. You might consciously say, I deserve wealth, but underneath, your subconscious might believe money is evil, and only greedy people have it. These subconscious beliefs are the real operating system. Your conscious goals are secondary. If your subconscious beliefs contradict your conscious goals, your subconscious wins, always. Your subconscious will organize your life to match the beliefs, not the goals. This is why some people have goals but never achieve them. Their conscious mind wants success. Their subconscious mind believes they don't deserve it. Their subconscious mind believes they're not capable. So they self-sabotage. They create obstacles. They manufacture reasons why it can't work. Not deliberately, automatically, because their subconscious is organizing their life to match their subconscious beliefs. This is crucial. You have to identify your subconscious beliefs. You have to bring them from the invisible into the visible so you can reprogram them. How do you do this? You examine your results. Your results are a direct reflection of your subconscious beliefs. If you keep attracting the same relationships, your subconscious believes that's what you deserve. If you keep failing at business, your subconscious believes you're not capable. If you keep struggling with money, your subconscious believes money is hard to get or not for you. Your results are not accidents. Your results are proof of what your subconscious believes about you. So you look at your patterns. You ask, what would my subconscious have to believe to consistently produce these results? Once you identify the belief, you can reprogram it. You can say to yourself, this belief is running me. This belief is limiting me. I'm choosing a new belief. And then you reprogram. You visualize your new reality. You attach emotion. You feed your subconscious a new image of what's possible for you, and your results begin to shift. Most people never do this work. Most people just accept their current results and blame circumstances. But the people who transform their lives? They do the internal work. They reprogram their subconscious beliefs, and their external life reorganizes to match the new beliefs. You have a choice. You can keep the subconscious beliefs that are currently running your life, or you can identify them and reprogram them. One keeps you trapped in your past. One liberates you into your future. The sleep protocol. Your subconscious employee works while you rest here. It was a power move that most people never use. Programming your subconscious right before sleep. Your subconscious is most receptive right before sleep and right after waking. During these times, your conscious mind is less active. Your analytical mind is less defensive. Your subconscious is wide open. So here's the protocol. Right before sleep, spend 5 to 10 minutes visualizing your goal. See it in complete detail. Feel the emotions. Attach genuine feeling to it. Then tell your subconscious, while I sleep, you're going to work on this. You're going to solve this problem. You're going to integrate this vision. You're going to organize my life toward this outcome. Then let your subconscious work while you sleep. Your conscious mind rests, but your subconscious employee keeps working. It's processing. It's organizing. It's creating neural connections around your visualization. It's literally rebuilding you. You'll wake up with insights you didn't have before, solutions to problems you were stuck on, ideas that seemed to come out of nowhere but actually came from your subconscious working while you slept. This is not mystical. This is practical. This is using the fact that your subconscious never sleeps to your advantage. Most people waste this opportunity. They go to bed and let their subconscious absorb whatever thoughts are running through their mind. Worries, doubts, replays of the day. Their subconscious spends the night processing limitation. But the people who understand this, they deliberately program their subconscious right before sleep. They give their subconscious a job. They say, here's what I want you to work on, and their subconscious gets to work. By morning, you've had your subconscious working on your goal for 8 hours while you slept. By morning, you've progressed on your vision without any conscious effort. You don't need their permission. You don't need complicated techniques. You just need to visualize and give your subconscious a job before you sleep. The integration. How subconscious mastery connects to everything. Here's where subconscious mastery connects to all 9 previous forces. Desire becomes more powerful when your subconscious accepts it as real. Faith becomes unshakable when your subconscious has been programmed with it. Autosuggestion works because you understand the subconscious accepts repetition. Specialized knowledge builds faster when your subconscious is organized around it. Imagination becomes your operating system when your subconscious believes it. Planning becomes executable when your subconscious has accepted the vision. Decision becomes solid when your subconscious is programmed to support it. Persistence becomes automatic when your subconscious believes success is inevitable. Mastermind becomes more powerful when everyone in the group is programming their subconscious with shared vision. Subconscious mastery is not separate from the other 9 forces. It's the foundation underneath all of them. It's what makes them work. It's the operating system that runs everything. Most people read about desire and faith and autosuggestion, and never understand that they're all forms of subconscious programming. They think these are separate concepts, but they're all the same thing. Feeding your subconscious mind so that it organizes your life toward your vision. When you understand this, everything becomes coherent. All 9 forces make sense. They're not random techniques. They're all ways of programming your subconscious mind, all ways of feeding your subconscious the vision of your future, so that your subconscious organizes your entire being, your thoughts, your actions, your choices, your results, toward that vision. You have a choice. You can understand the 9 forces individually, or you can understand them as a unified system for reprogramming your subconscious mind toward your vision. One treats them as separate ideas. One treats them as an integrated whole. The final truth. You are the programmer. Here's what needs to be crystal clear. You are in control. not your past, not your circumstances, not other people. You are the programmer. Your subconscious mind is the program, and your life is the output. If you don't like the output, you don't change the circumstances. You change the program. You change what you're feeding your subconscious. You change your mental diet. You change your visualization. You change your beliefs. The subconscious mind is not your enemy. It's your most powerful ally. It's your invisible employee that works for you 24 hours a day. It's your supercomputer that's constantly organizing your reality to match whatever you're feeding it. Most people have given control of their subconscious to other people, to circumstances, to fear, to limitation, so their subconscious is programming them toward other people's vision, toward small lives, toward safe choices, toward fear-based decisions. But you have a choice. You can take back control. You can deliberately program your subconscious. You can feed it your vision. You can feed it your dreams. You can feed it certainty about your future, and your subconscious will work for you. It will organize your life toward your vision. This is the final force. This is the force that ties together everything you've learned. This is the force that says, you are in control, not of circumstances, but of how your subconscious interprets and responds to circumstances. You are the programmer. The connecting truth. You've now mastered 10 foundational forces. Desire, the obsession with your outcome. Faith, the certainty that it will happen. Autosuggestion, the reprogramming of your mind. Specialized knowledge, the focused expertise. Imagination, the blueprint of your future. Organized planning, the structure that converts vision into motion. Decision, the commitment that launches you forward. Persistence, the mindset that refuses to quit. Mastermind, the power of alliance. And the subconscious mind, the hidden power within that orchestrates everything. These 10 forces are complete. They are whole. They are unstoppable. But they are only unstoppable if you use them. Understanding them means nothing. Studying them means nothing. Knowing them intellectually means nothing. You must live them. You must practice them. You must integrate them into your daily life until they become automatic, until they become who you are. The subconscious mind is always working. The question is, what are you programming it to work toward? Every single day you're making a choice. You're either programming your subconscious toward your vision or toward limitation. You're either feeding it success or feeding it failure. You're either building your future or defaulting to your past. There is no neutral. There is no middle ground. You are either intentionally programming your subconscious or you're accidentally programming it. The choice is yours. The power is within you. Your subconscious is waiting to work for you. Are you ready to program it? Everything you desire already exists, waiting for you to match its frequency. Think and Grow Rich is not a suggestion. It's a command to discipline your thoughts, your focus, and your faith. You have learned that desire ignites, faith fuels, imagination builds, decision executes, and persistence completes. The formula has never changed, and only the hands that apply it. So the question is simple. Will you think weakly or think powerfully? Will you dream passively or act relentlessly? Wealth, health, purpose, they all bend to one law. You become what you repeatedly believe. So think like a creator, act like an achiever, and live like you've already arrived. Because the world is waiting to see what happens when you finally decide to think and grow rich.